Afternoon to you on what is a fascinating day's racing from the Bourg-Roison to Courchevel, the shortest stage of the race, just 148 kilometres, that's 115 miles, but already the action has come thick and fast as we climb up the Col de Glandon. They got the top of that after 36 kilometres have been covered, and the Festina team had put in an enormous purge all the way up, and it just blew everybody out the back doors opening, and they were falling out left, right and centre, and the Festinas did an enormously superb job. And what you see on the screen now is what's left of that purge. We've just got Duffield here, Veronk and Casagrande. Casagrande hasn't done a tap all day. He sat on the Festina's wheel, but the big news is that some 1 minute and 35 seconds down behind them is the yellow jersey of Jan Ullrich. Ullrich has with him his teammate Bjorn Ries, who's doing a sterling job trying to catch this little group back. Also with Ullrich at the moment is Escartin and Jimenez, who are not doing anything to aid the pulling back of this man Richard Veronk. It looks remarkably comfortable, but today really not only was the purge one that made life difficult for so many riders, but on the descent of the climb, this man in the yellow jersey here was going down like a novice. Off the Col de Glandon, he lost some 20 seconds on the descent and just had to sit up and wait for Ries and the rest to come through to him. He was wedged between the breakaways. The Festinas managed to get 3 men down the road off the top of the climb with Veronk, and so this fellow here just couldn't hold the speed. He was going around the corners like he's riding around a 50 pence piece, and he was at one point he nearly went into the gutter and over the edge, but he's now sort of recovered his composure. Ries has got to him, and we're seeing a tremendous chase going on now, and the rest of the race is just splattered behind them. It's only, in fact, now it's just down to 1 minute. They've been putting it back, and all the work is being done by Ries to pull it back, and it really has been a tremendous day. And behind this group here, we've got a little small group containing Olano. Pantani has also been dropped, but he's not far back from this three-man group here, but he's trying to get back up again. Olano's been dropped. We've seen so many riders struggling to stay the pace at the moment. This is a fearsome day, and though it's only a short, sharp day, I'm sure we're going to find a lot of riders getting themselves eliminated today. We've got the Col de Madeleine yet to come. That's after 86 kilometres of racing at the top, and they come up to Courchevel to finish after 148 kilometres. It's either up or down or back up again. Stephen Roche is with me, and Stephen has only just arrived. I'm going to warn you, Stephen, you might want to nip back to your car and get something to wear, because I've got a Macintosh here, nylon one. I've got a zipper jacket and a woolly and my shirt underneath that, and my legs have been freezing. I had to go out and get warm. By standing at the back, you get warm. Come in here, it's like sitting in a fridge with the beautiful mountains round about us. The snow's still on there, the wind's coming straight off it, straight into our commentary point. So if I were you, young man,
well, actually, I've actually raided back to my car for my friend Claude Estlin, who joined me there last night, to bring up some warmer clothes. Actually, I thought we were on air a lot earlier today, Dave, so I was really rushing, so that as I got down the way here where the cars are being kind of sent off to different parking areas, I jumped out of the car, said to Claude, "You park the car, I'm going off to meet Dave," you know. So I radioed back to him there a few minutes ago and told him to bring up whatever warm clothes he can find.
Well, we were standing by from 1 o'clock onwards, Steve, because there was live motorcycling on Eurosport, and we have to get here, or we got here at 1 o'clock, because say the motorcycling was rained up or something happened with the transmission, then we'd have switched to cycling. So I was here together with Rudy Altig and Carsten Miguels, the two German commentators, just for 12:30 actually, to make sure that we could stand by in case we came in. Sometimes if something happens with motorcycling, a big crash, or there's no action, then they may come to us just for an update on the race, you see. So I've been sitting here quietly freezing. I've been put on more and more clothes, and the best thing to do, as I've just done a few minutes ago, is to go and stand out round the back and get your body warm. But this race today is warm and hot stuff, isn't it, Stephen?
Well, I've been listening to it, Dave, on the race radio right through from the start, and it was like one of the big days that'll go down forever in the kind of history of cycling. Like we saw Vihank there this morning with his whole Festina team, like Vihank, Diffo, Laurent Brochard, Pascal Hervé, all going to the front on the first climb called the Glandon, really accelerating going down the descent, blowing out Ullrich, blowing at everybody else, because Ullrich was in between the group, Vihank and the peloton. Ullrich ended up waiting for Ries, who's coming up behind, moving him back down to 1.5 minutes behind Vihank at one stage. Then Reese, of course, came together. There was also Orlano in that group as well, but with Sophie Minsko, since the start of the call the Madeleine, Orlano got blown out. So the time check now, going back to the yellow jersey, is about 50 seconds from Virenque back. Then you have Orlano back a little bit further. But I was waiting myself for Pantani to do something. As you see here, Reese doing an exceptional amount of work here for Ulrich. This was something we've seen last year, but the other way around. Last year we saw Bjorn Reese in yellow jersey, and we saw Jan Ulrich riding in the front the same way Bjorn Reese is doing this at the moment for Ulrich. And we have Skartin there as well, Dave, on the wheel of Ulrich. This is going to be an incredible stage, and I'm afraid that if to keep going like this, Dave, there might maybe even some riders eliminated.
We thought that all along. I've heard the French people talking about it too, that this could be the day when some of the tired legs find themselves on their way back home outside the time limit. But the way the Festinas did it, you mentioned a number of names there, certainly yes, people like Brochard, Dufo, Hervé, but at the very start of that first climb, we also had Neil Stevens, for instance. He just rode himself into oblivion, right up near the front at all times, going up and over up until he almost fell off in the end. He'd done his job, he'd caused the pain and suffering of everybody else, and that's provided a platform for the others to go.
Well, this morning, Dave, I spoke to Bruno Russell, and he was saying, I said to him, well, Bruno, what do you reckon for today? He said, well, we believe that Ulrich has had a little bit of diarrhea during the night. So anyone who knows anything about cycling knows that when you have a bit of diarrhea, it empties you a lot. With the stages we've had over the last few days, and the stage like today being very, very hard, it can weaken you in the hills. And also, they also know that Ulrich is not a very good descender. So they thought, well, if we go from the line, and Ulrich is not in his best condition, he may be able to get him. And if they can get him and isolate him from his teammates, well then on the descent then we can go flat out and maybe isolate him even more so. So the whole Festinas team were going to, their job was to blow everybody out from the start of the hill, and then there was Virenque and Duffield to take over, and Virenque only to work on the final climb up to Courchevel.
Well, that is what you're witnessing on your screen now on Eurosport. They've just got one passenger there, Casagrande, who's quite rightly sitting in. He has the right to sit there and not help, but I suspect that if Dufo eventually gets blown out, that Casagrande might start to do a bit to help Virenque go away, because here Dufo is beginning to lose a bit of steam, but what a wonderful job they've done to tow this man along. It looks like he's on his titanium bike as well, Virenque, to me. It looks like a sort of mattish grey-silver finish.
He is, yes, he's on his titanium bike, Dave. But we saw a very good gesture there from Pascal Hervé, as we see Casagrande getting blown out. Like he wasn't riding with the group, with Virenque since he got away, but we see now that, well, it's particularly because he hadn't got it in his legs to come through. But there are about 11 kilometres here now from the top, and Virenque and Duffield doing an incredible number here today.
Well, as they go up there in the Col de Madeleine, when they get to the top of that, it's just 6 kilometres to go to the top of this climb, which is 2,000 metres above sea level. They've climbed all the way up from La Chambre at the bottom, which is 435 metres above sea level. So they've climbed just nearly 1,600 metres up this climb, and they've done it in 20 kilometres. Once they get over the top, it virtually is all the way down the bottom to around about 110 kilometres from the start, leaving just about 38 kilometres, and that's gently uphill all the way, and the last bit is not so gentle up to the top of Courchevel, 2,004 metres above sea level. So it goes up, down, and very little. There's a bit of flat in between, about 10 k's just towards the feed, a little bit just here towards Aigueblanche, but practically nothing really is to make any real contribution to the race. It's just been climbing, descending, a bit like yesterday. Sorry, a bit like yesterday. It was all uphill at the finish of it all. We had that in the Pyrenees about 3 days ago.
Well, the climb up to Courchevel, Dave, actually surprised me, because I didn't actually think it was so severe. But when you get onto it in the car, it starts off quite slightly, but then all of a sudden then you come to one or two small little towns, and there's some very steep corners and some very steep straights on the climb itself. They reckon it's about an average of 6% of a climb, and the riders today will be riding about 41, 15, 41, 16. The 41 chainring on the front and a 15 or 16 sprocket on the back. That's the guys in the front, I mean, Dave. The guys behind me using probably a 41 inside ring and probably a 18-20 on the back.
Well, I thought when I saw the climb to begin with, before I saw the back end of it, that it was going to be a Reese-type climb, and I'd got my prognostications for the race entirely wrong today. But it starts off on a sort of Reese-type climb, but then it gets really nasty, doesn't it? Some sharp bends, and then it comes out, it drops a little bit, then it goes up again. It's the most difficult climb to judge. And of course, it's the first time we've been up here, so not a lot of riders will know it unless they've been up here training. So that lies ahead of the riders who are now going up the top of the Col de Madeleine. We're going to take a short break. Stay with us on Eurosport. This is going to be a great day on the bikes. Looking at what is rather a sorry sight, I suppose, for those who picked Pantani to win the stage today. I didn't think it would go so fast from the start. It certainly didn't suit Pantani, still recovering from his superb stage victory yesterday. He also suffered at the hands of the Festina's purge when we went up that first big climb of the Col de Glandon, a climb of something like 20 kilometres they climbed up. He stayed in the group just behind the Festinas, and eventually has now been struggling, and he's with Lino, and I think it's Jimenez with him at the moment. And at the moment, up in the front, we understand that the two leaders at the moment, Veronk and Duffield, they're increasing their lead. They're about 45 seconds on Reese. At one time, Reese was pulling the yellow jersey back up again, but here we can see the remnants of the Benesto team with Olano in here. They certainly are trying to get him back in contention, but the last time check we had back to Olano was 2 minutes and 15 seconds. This group you're looking at now with Escartin on the back, and up in front, here we are, this is
Casagrande coming back.
Casagrande is coming back to Reese, who's doing a sterling job here, and young Ulrich hanging on behind, and then Escartin. The last time check we had was some 45 seconds. It was down to fourth, then going back. The Olano group's gone even further back now, 2:25 on this climb.
Reese, of course, by doing this, he's not only riding for Ulrich in the yellow jersey, he's also riding himself into third place overall on GC, because if you remember, Pantani took over yesterday from him on GC, so by doing this, he's actually moving himself into a stronger place and going one stage closer to ensuring himself a place on the podium in Paris.
Well, this morning the time gaps were as follows. You probably might not have got in your Sunday papers. By the way, I'll talk about Sunday papers. I don't know what the Sunday Times said today, but we had young Longmore with us all day yesterday. I hope he got back safe and sound then, because we had a rather hectic day in the motor car. And also I understand on Monday that there's going to be a piece from Gareth Davis too in the Telegraph, not just the reporting piece but the background stuff, and Gareth was looking for some inside information on Ulrich, and certainly he will have got something to write for his story. Well, I dropped them off last night, and I've no doubt you might have seen the piece in the Sunday Times. But the gaps, you haven't got it in your local newspaper or your national newspaper. They're looking at Pantani and Pasqualino here. We start this morning with Jan Ulrich in the yellow jersey. His lead back to Veronk was 6 minutes and 22 seconds. So Veronk in second spot, 6 minutes 22 seconds back. In third place, Marco Pantani, 8 minutes and 24 seconds in arrears. On the general classification, the fourth place man is Bjorn Rees, the Danish rider for Telecom, at 9 minutes and 42 seconds. The man we're looking at now, Olano, start this morning in fifth spot at 10 minutes and 38 seconds. Francesco Casagrande, who tried to stay with the leaders, has just been dropped and has been swept up by Ulrich and Rees. Casagrande has been going very steadily. He's moved up to sixth. He was at 12 minutes and 56 seconds, the Psycho rider, as at this morning. And in seventh spot, we know Escartin is hanging on to the yellow jersey as much as he can do. Escartin this morning was seventh overall. The Kelmer Casagrande Eurosport rider is at 14 minutes and 36 seconds back on the yellow jersey. Oscar Camazin is having a bad day, by the way. He must be probably about 4 or 5 minutes down now. He was in the second group over the top and never really made much progress. I see Casagrande here, I say was sixth this morning now, being dropped off by Escartin, who started in seventh spot this morning. So Camazin down 16 minutes and 59 seconds this morning. Jimenez at ninth spot, 18 minutes and 32 this morning, and Jufa this morning was in 10th spot, 18:46.
Just coming over the race radio there while you were giving that information out, Bruno Russell, Virenque's director sportif, has just gone up to Virenque and said to him, I don't want you going away yet, because apparently, as you saw a few minutes ago, as you see Walter Godefroy now giving a bottle out to to Reese and to Ulrich here. But Virenque was told by his director sportif, take it easy. I don't want you going away on your own as yet. I know you can go, you can probably go faster, but he says stay with Laurent Diffo at the moment. Just use Laurent to the maximum. Let him ride you as near as he can to the top of the climb, because behind you have Ulrich being towed along by Reese. So just leave for the moment, just some 40 seconds ahead. You're letting him work very, very hard. So just leave Laurent Diffo ride with you, help him out now and again, the same as he's doing now, but don't leave Diffo behind.
If I think I'm correct on listening on the headphones of the race radio, I think it's now come back near to 25 seconds, the effect of Reese to pull back, so he must be closing. That's why we saw Virenque looking over his shoulder, not at Duffield, but to see if he can see Reese coming up. Would he tactically then be looking back at Pantani, who must get up with a group? He needs some more riders to take him, I think, down the hill. Would you think that Virenque will wait till they come up to him, or accelerate and try and make a mess on the downhill? Because if he really goes over the top, we've seen we've seen Ulrich already in desperate trouble on the descent then, Stephen, so I presume his team manager would say, look, as we can see the gap now, look, here comes the chase of Ulrich and Reese and Escartin. It's probably down to about 15 seconds now. There they are. Wonderful performance by Bjorn Reese on the front and Ulrich on his wheel. Escartin hanging on for grim death, trying to track down these two riders. You can see the people up there, zigzags right the way to the top of this great big climb of the Col de Madeleine. Alano's now at 2:40, so way back down the mountain. Alano's losing a lot more time today. Up the top of the Col de la Madeleine, 2,000 metres above sea level. This is the group on your right there, the group containing Pantani, 220. He's slipping back all the time, and it's been Virenque that's doing it. It looks to me like he's now still towing his teammate Dufo along, but it may be, Steve, not before long he just abandons him and goes over the top.
Well, there's still 7 kilometres to go to the top, Dave, but I think that Bruno Ruxel is Virenque's director sportif. He's not really afraid of the climb here, and Virenque going away and leaving Diffo. There's some only 6 kilometres to the 6.5 kilometres to the top, which is coming over race radio now. He's only got some 17 seconds ahead now of Bjorn Reese. So I'd say what they're going to do now is they might ease up, because Virenque could go on his own. He's talking here, yeah. Virenque could go on his own here, of course, but the problem is once he gets over the top of the Col de la Madeleine, there's still some 20 kilometres of flat to go before the final climb of 21 kilometres up to the finish here up in Courchevel. So I'd say it'd be very unwise for Virenque to try and go on his own. So I'd say he'll just ease up now. I'd say, all right, just back off a little bit and let the boys get back on. This, of course, by Reese and Ulrich getting back onto these boys will help, of course, Pantani and Orlando, who are not too far behind, because then this group here will ease up, and Pantani group and the group of Orlando will get back on again, I'd say.
Well, that lies in the future. What's happened today, I'll just recap for you as we see Virenque now going away from Dufo. He had a word with him. I think he said goodbye, hang on to the next group when it comes through. I might need you later, but he's off now. Virenque is beginning to go. The gap's now down to just 18 seconds. Virenque puts the pressure on and goes away on his own. Is this a foolhardy mission then, Stephen?
It's a mistake, Dave.
A mistake?
That's suicide. You know, he's already giving himself a lot of work by going away with his teammates early on. Even though he didn't maybe give it 100% himself, he still was riding around with the lads. So he's already used up a lot of energy at the moment. He could be putting himself here in a very dangerous situation, because he's using up energy here, which he may need in the final climb up to Courchevel. Because the way you see, we saw the strain several times. We saw Reese riding very, very strongly behind, not looking panicked at all, just riding nice and steady here. As you see him here in front of Ulrich, I'd say like Ulrich had a lot of power left in him, because he may not be in as good a form as he was in the Pyrenees the other day, but he hasn't done an inch of on the front here so far. So he's going to be very fresh on the final climb. So I think Virenque should have backed off and said, okay, I had a go, it hasn't worked, I've eliminated all of Ulrich's team here, so if I hold on till the end, maybe I can have another go on Courchevel. So I'd say, shall we see, Dave?
We shall see. Well, if you just tuned into Eurosport, that's my co-commentator Stephen Roche giving the inside information on what could be happening up the road. They're just about to catch Duffield, and Reese it is that's doing all the work on the front. And the Danes again, they're out here. I know it's the weekend, and they've come down to watch the Tour de France. Really, the Danish flags are everywhere. Talking to some of the Danish radio reporters last night, Stephen, they reckon that over 100,000 people have booked to come down to the Tour de France, according to some survey they've had with the travel agents and so on. And now they've reeled in Duffield. Wonder if he can hang on there, but it's a big Dane on the front. The great Dane himself going away to try and catch Veronk, who's the only man down the road. Up comes the team car for a quick word with Duffield, who's ridden very hard indeed. I'll put you in the picture what's happened since we start this morning from Bourg-Gloison. A relatively flat start to begin with. His first sprint was in 9 kilometres at Alemont. There's Abel, took that one ahead of Moncassin, and Vogels into third spot. We then went over a tremendously large dam and across a lovely big lake, and at that particular moment Chepi Gonzalez decided to activate things, and they were just approaching the foot of the Col de Glandon. As he went way down the road, Blanco came up marking him. Stevens did saying like were marked as well. The Vogels rider Gann tried to get to them, got blown out, and Pasquale also tried to go to them. Bogart joined us, Simoni, but they're all hopefuls trying to get an early start on the climb. But it wasn't very long before they got caught at the point 21 kilometres from the top of the climb. Chepi Gonzalez tried it again, but he had not a catch chance in hell, or whatever they have out in Colombia, because the real attempts by the Festinas to dominate the race took place just around about 20 k's from the top of the Col de Glandon. The split came when about 30 riders suddenly forced a hole in the rest of the field. Jalabert was dropped back in the second group. Camazin was dropped back in the second group. And of that first group that went up the Col, let me give you a rundown on most of the 30-odd riders in there. There was Bjorn Ries for Telecom with Bolts, Toshnik, the yellow jersey, and Zabel, who tried to begin to work hard at the bottom of the climb, was blasted out the back. From the Festina team, Veronk, Bortolami, Brochard, Dufo, Hervé, Moreau, Stevens and Roos, and all that lot were right on the front and blowing the Telecoms as hard as they could do. Casagrande was there for Psycho, Luttenberger for the Rabobank team, together with Jonker, Olano, Beltran, Casero and Jimenez, all from the Modesto team. Farazin was there, Scartin there, Pantani and Conti, Parenzana, Lino and Simoni. And suddenly the pressure went on and on and on. They dropped off one by one until we went over the top of the climb, and Veronk was first over the top of the climb, ahead of Dufo. In third place was Hervé. So there's a 1, 2 and 3 for the Festina team over the top of the Col de Glandon. Casagrande was fourth, followed by Ulrich, Brochard, Moreau. So there's still the Festinas were up there in the top half dozen places. Then it was Toshnik, Jimenez, Luttenberger, Escartin, Ries, Farazin and Olano. But it's on the descent that the Festinas launched another attack, and we now understand that Pantani is back 2 minutes and 50 seconds down, but it's on the descent of the Col de Glandon when we saw Veronk go away with Brochard, Hervé and Dufo together with Casagrande. It just split. When the simple things, they sat up a bit at the top and they rocketed down. Olano now 3 minutes and 10 seconds down, despite the fact he was with them at the top of the climb of the Col de Glandon. But the way that Brochard, Hervé and Dufo came down the Col de Glandon, it was absolutely mind-blowing, and Veronk just sat there being coasted along in their slipstream together with Casagrande, and the one man on his own, Ulrich, nearly went over into the grass verge and fell off in his attempt to catch them. He didn't have a chance. At the bottom of the climb, he was 25 seconds down on the breakaway group of Veronk, Brochard, Hervé and Dufo. At 57 seconds was Ries with Olano and a few other riders, and 2:57 the Camazin group containing Jalabert. Well, he sat up, did Ulrich, at 59 kilometres from the start, still 87 kilometres to go, and joined up with Ries, Toshnik and Bolts, who regrouped to try and catch this man up in front. But still then, he's pressing on here, and you said it's a suicide attempt, Stephen. Certainly, his team have been in action all the day, but he's had so many good teammates round about him. He's been in the slipstream Italy, but he's still got to ride the mountain, haven't you?
Yes, we have. We're listening into an interview here with Walter Gutterford, where a journalist said to him, Walter, I suppose now that you have Bianchi on his own out in front and Ries riding the way it is, I suppose you must feel a little bit more comfortable now, a little bit more kind of settled. So he says, I wasn't really kind of uptight at all since the start of the stage. He says Ulrich hasn't ridden 1 metre in the front. He's always had a teammate or two with him. Now he has Reese with him. He's still sitting on his wheel. It's a long way to go to the finish. Ranked on his own in the front. So he said, for the moment, I haven't really been worried about it, but I don't believe that myself, Dave. But he says that with Vihank in the front, this he's riding for himself, whereas Ulrich now is back here. He's not working at all, but at the same time he says, I'm happy now that Vihank is on his own and not as he was earlier on with 5 teammates with him.
Well, what an interesting day's race we got yet again live on Eurosport. Don't go away, there's more coming up after this short break. To some 15 kilometres of climbing up this great big mountain, up towards the top. They will have covered a distance by the time they get there of 86 kilometres as they start this morning. That's just on 51 miles as such. The gap now back between Vihank and this group here is 23 seconds. At one time he was in almost spitting distance. He could have looked back and seen the colour of the eyes of the people chasing him, but he's prizing his way up the mountain and slowly but surely opening up a bit of a lead. But this is a long old hard climb, but the interest will also be when he goes over the top. Can he survive, and can he then open the gap up again behind? Tactically, Stephen, good move by Festina. You said it's suicide, but he's still pressing on, all right?
No, it's a great move by Festina initially, but the fact that Vihank going away on his own with 5 kilometres of the climb still to come, 10 kilometres of a descent and 20 kilometres of flat roads to the final climb up to Courchevel. I think it's a bit suicidal because Ulrich has not done one turn of the pedals himself behind here. He has Reese doing all the work for him, so it means on the final hill we might even see Ulrich riding away from everybody himself. But in saying that, since Vihank lost his final teammate, Laurent Duffield, he's put 5 or 6 seconds into the group of the yellow jersey. Maybe he has it in his mind that if he can go over the top of this climb, but by maintaining or slightly increasing his lead, if he goes down the final descent, really like as he went down the first descent off the Col de Glannon this morning, maybe he might be able to put another 30 seconds into this group of the yellow jersey. But still, is some almost 20 kilometres of reasonably flat, wide kind of roads to go to the foot of the Col of the Courchevel. So if Reese stays with Ulrich, it means it's going to be a really good help to him in this flat part, and possibly be able to bring back Vihank before the foot of the Courchevel, where I'd say you might see a Scartin who hasn't done a bit of work, or likewise Ulrich hasn't done a thing. You might see them even taking over, maybe riding away from Vihank.
In the background, you can see the cotton wool clouds perched up on the top of these mountains. The granite mountains here within the little gullies, you can still see the smattering of snow. And one man who's suffering today, who's right down the bottom of this climb after his big ride into Alpe d'Huez yesterday, is Pantani, who's over 3 minutes back. We're watching Reese here, putting in a tremendous effort. Alano is at 3:40, and what a race we're having today, but still it's not all over yet with Vihank down the road. Reese here following with the yellow jersey, Ulrich on his wheel, and still in there with a shout, the Kelme Casablanca Eurosport rider, Escartin.
Well, actually, Dave, I'm just analysing Vihank's tactics here again myself in my own mind, and trying to understand a little bit more on what he's doing. Like, I myself am not a Vihank supporter, but where credit is due, I do believe in giving it, and he has got a lot of credit today. And where I was saying that in doing what he's doing here now at the moment is maybe a little bit suicidal, the likes you see is 320 is going back to Pantani behind him, whereas yesterday Pantani took over. It was getting very close to second place on GC. So I'm sure Vihank knows that if he gets caught by Ulrich and Reese, all of a sudden there'll be a bit of a stall in the group. That could help Pantani get back on again and neutralise the whole move that he's done today. So he probably feels that by keeping up in front and keeping up the pace, putting more distance between myself and the group of Pantani, and see how it goes down to the finish. So maybe that's what he has in his mind.
Also, though, Stephen, isn't it true to say, when I was driving along on this course, I noticed that there's a very strong following winds today, that the riders have got a very, very strong following wind, and therefore that one man on his own, obviously is at an advantage, but certainly it isn't the same as when you've got a headwind blowing at one man, and it's also helping blow them up some of these mountain climbs.
It is, yes, it's a very, very strong wind, but we start turning around a little bit towards the finish, Dave, and up Courchevel, it's very, very twisty and turny, so the wind will be a little bit kind of different. It'll be sometimes in your back, sometimes in your face. So but still it's a long way for Van Eyck to go on his own.
You can see there the dotted white spots on the climbs. Those are the camper vans of the spectators. Have been out again all night. They will have driven off following the finish last night. And what a job it was to come down. You see these big mountains here. When we go to the top, that's fine. But you try coming down. It took us 3 hours to come off the top of the Alpe d'Huez last night down into Grenoble. Of that, the first 2 hours was coming off the Alpe d'Huez, but the riders went up in about 40 minutes. It was impossible.
Actually, little over 30 minutes they've went up, and actually Pantani broke the record, and now he holds a new record.
Does he?
He holds a new record now for the climb up to Alpe d'Huez. But some of our people from Coeur de Lion, they were going down Alpe d'Huez last night, and the race finished at about 5:30, and he got down to the bottom of Bourdois. That Bourdois was on at 9:15.
Yeah, I was the same. What I don't understand, normally the police allow us, the officials, particularly the press, to go around the left-hand side of the road. The right-hand side is where they hold the ordinary public to go down very slowly, and we're allowed to come down the left-hand side. They wouldn't let us do that. They shoved everybody over. I stopped to the couple of gendarmes. I said, look, we're always allowed to go the left-hand side. I've got British journalists with me. He's got to write his copy back in the hotel and phone it through tonight. One of them had already done his copy in the press room, and then the other one wanted to do some work, asking me questions on the way down before he wrote his piece. And the gendarme said, no, get over. And I'm going to write an official protest because we've always been allowed in the past to go down. It made life difficult. We got the hotel at 10 o'clock last night. How can we work in those conditions?
Well, this is the Tour de France, Dave, and when you see that the crowds that were on Alpe d'Huez yesterday, Pantani broke the record for going up it, but there was also a record crowd there yesterday. We've never ever seen so many people on Alpe d'Huez as we saw yesterday.
Well, they said that normally they get 200,000 people up on the Alpe d'Huez, but last night I came down, I reckon there must have been a good 250,000 people. Let's say 200,000 normal people. They must have got another 50, 60,000 up there yesterday.
Well, normally you have, like, say, 10 or 11 deep for the last 4 or 5 kilometers, and then from that down for the first 6-7 kilometers, kind of here and there. Whereas yesterday, right from the very foot of the climb, there was 5 or 6 lines of people deep. So there was, and anyone that saw it on television yesterday on Eurosport's coverage would realise that how difficult it was for the riders riding up through the tunnel of people as they got towards the top of the Alpe d'Huez.
That's just what they're calling out now, Stephen. They're asking for one of the motos to come up here, a motorcycle, to try and clear the way, because I think there was a press motorcycle that went up in front, and they're having great difficulty getting through the crowd. It's now clearing a little bit, but you can imagine some of the difficulties they're getting on riding under these conditions. They can't now see Varrock through this crowd at all. We're going to Col de Madeleine. Varrock has been over here first in the past. He came over first in 1996. He was first in 1995. We also came over in 1994 when Ugramov won it. We've been over here. This is the 16th time since 1969 when Gandararis was the first man over. So it's just over 20 seconds, I think, the gap back to Varrock to this little lot. Coming up on my headphones. Jean-Pierre Danguillaume came over in 73 in first spot. He's now with the Coca-Cola people as head of the sort of PR side of that. So, and Van Impe did it in 79. Van Impe again the following year 81, following year 83. So Delgado too, Fuerte 87. It's been a climber's climb, this one, hasn't it, Stephen? I think to see this man Varrock now go over twice in the lead, it looks like he might get his third consecutive victory over the top of the climb, but still only 20 seconds separates him from the yellow jersey group. Ulrich now taking over the front. Do you think, Stephen, that it might be that Rees is looking for a bit of a breather? He's been doing so much work on the climb.
He has, but I think they're possibly afraid of what damage Pantani might do if he's still on his own as he goes over the top. So Ulrich now is giving putting his kind of signature now to the possibly the close of this break. Van Eyck has been holding out there for 23-25 seconds for the last 5 or 6 kilometers and not gaining any more ground or not losing any more ground. So maybe Rees, after been riding for so long on the front, was feeling a little bit going a little bit stale. So Ulrich has decided, well, he'll take over, finally close the gap, and then hopefully put an end to this crusade, because that's actually what it is. It's been very, very difficult for everybody since the start of the stage.
And this is the man that's done the damage, or shall we say all his Festina team, who once we started on the first climb of the day, just went to the front and had one job to do, Demolition Derby. And at one time there were just 10 men left behind them, and again it was like 10 green bottles. One by one they fell off the wall. I've had two that fell off the wall before we even started today was Luc Leblanc, who did not start this morning, nor Frattini. Luc Leblanc, who was 5th in the Tour de France in 91, 4th in 94, that was the year he went on to win his World Championship, had a bad crash in the Giro d'Italia just about 4 weeks ago, and obviously was suffering from that, so he didn't start, nor did Frattini. So we were down to 169 starters for this 148-kilometre stage into Courchevel. We've not been here before, and the finish is right at what they call Altiport. They seem to land small private aeroplanes up here. Just let's hope that nobody's going to try and come into land when the Tour de France finishes underway, because there's an enormous crowd up here waiting for the riders to appear. You see this at Lot here as he now goes up towards the final kilometre of the climb. The gap we had last time check was 23 seconds.
In 1987, Dave, we come over this Col de Madeleine as we go by the 1 kilometre to go here of the climb, and I had attacked Delgado after going over the Galibier. Between the Galibier and the foot of the Madeleine, I attacked Delgado, got away from him. I rode the Madeleine here with Fuerte, who actually beat me on top of it for the Grand Prix of the Mountains. And down the far side, very dangerous descent on the far side, and we were caught on the far side by Delgado and one or two of his teammates before going up to the Col de la Plagne, where Delgado put 4 seconds into me, and where I actually collapsed at the end with exhaustion. But the Col de Madeleine has been a very, on many occasions, been a key factor in whichever stage or whichever way we've gone over it. It has often played a big role in the outcome of the Tour de France.
And it's certainly make the legs hurt now. Less than 1 kilometre to go to the top, and the gap back to Pantani, we understand, is now 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Pantani, who's lying third this morning at 8:24. Bjorn Ries could therefore go over the top of him, because Bjorn Ries was 9:42, 1 minute and 20 odd seconds down on Pantani. So Ries is also pushing himself into third spot and putting Pantani back down into fourth. Lana this morning, 10:38, is also way down the mountain, somewhere about the same position as Pantani. So it's a race here not only to preserve Ulrich's yellow jersey and stop Veron from closing up more time on him, but it's also for Bjorn Ries to take over third spot. And this man here has now gone to the front of the group. He doesn't look as stressed now as he did do earlier on, Steve. When I watched him on that other climb and on the way down, his face looked in pain. He looked like he was really in desperation straits, and almost he could see, obviously, the Tour de France slipping away from him. But I think Ries, by going on the front, seems to restore some of his confidence.
It has, but also I think the fact that with having Vihank out there on his own, just being kind of grasping distance, has also made him feel a little bit more comfortable as well. But looking at Vihank here at the moment, he's giving it everything he has. He wants to get over the top of this hill, knowing that the descent of the Madeleine is fairly tricky again, hoping to put some more time into himself and Ulrich on the descent.
In the background there, you can see the banners for Telecom and Ulrich. Well, at the moment, Ulrich and his Telecom teammate Bjorn Ries are around about 20-odd seconds, maybe 22, 23 seconds down on Veron, who's still resisting all attempts to be reeled in before he gets to the top of this climb of the Col de Madeleine. Not very far to go now. Just there you can see the dark black cows in the distance, but the enormous crowd have turned out to cheer him underway, and this Frenchman really is giving the French something to cheer about. But I've just seen a Danish flag on the side, and they'll wave that one shortly, because Ries has done a sterling job to keep Ulrich in contention, having collected him off the descent of the previous climb over the Col de Grandon. He's kept his yellow jersey teammate confident that perhaps they can hold this man on the climb. But look at that for a great shot as he comes up to get his third consecutive prize for going over the top of the Madeleine in first position.
He is showing signs of fatigue, Dave, but I would just want to put a bet on, Dave, or put money on maybe that the fact that this group here, when they finally catch Vihank on the final climb up to Courchevel, that Ulrich is not going to have a go for the stage.
The gap then 19 seconds back to Ulrich, Ries and Escartin in that order. So this
Laurent Duffield has done a good ride there, because he hasn't lost that much time.
No, he's
after been getting dropped by the group of Ulrich and Rees. I thought he would have lost like a minute maybe, but he's only lost like about 20 seconds, so he can get back onto this group now.
This is the Col de Madeleine then, and we're looking at Pantani, who at one time was 3 minutes and 40 seconds down. He's just gone through 1 kilometre point. He's pulling back time as well at the moment. Pantani, who got dropped on the climb of the Col de Madeleine, is now trying to regain that top group, because he can see his third spot overall disappearing, because Bjorn Rees this morning in fourth spot was just about 1 minute and 18 seconds behind Pantani. So here we go then. Casagrande, who managed to stay with the Festina group for a long time, is now at 1 minute and 20 seconds.
I'd say there's still some 3 minutes again back to Pantani, Dave, but the fact now that the group in front are still chasing Pantani, or chasing Virenque, who's going down the descent here like really on the edge. Virenque is he's calling to his car, looking for some water. Like, for example, going up the climb up to Le Col de Madeleine, you cannot get a bottle. The Madeleine is some 20 kilometers long. But one problem here now with Virenque is that with the gap between Virenque and Ulrich and Rees only being 20 seconds, Virenque's team car has been put back behind the group of Rees. Then you have the group then of the neutral car behind them has been told to stop as well. So there's no car between Virenque and this group. We just see Ulrich there going around this corner. Just watch it here again, Dave. Watch it here again.
Typical of his bad descending, Stephen.
He's cutting the corner instead of the wrong. Look at him, nearly going onto the barriers.
Exactly what happened when we were watching the programme before we came on air, when he came off the Col de Glandon, when the Festinas had their big purge. They had a big purge going up the Col de Glandon, when just about all the team were up there with Virenque, and they made life very difficult for Telecom. And as they came over the top, we had that attack of the remnants of the Festina team. They'd shot off Stevens, for instance, who'd ridden himself into oblivion on the way up. But Brochard, Hervé and Duffield, together with Virenque, went over the top, accelerating as they went over the climb, took Casagrande with them. Ulrich started to stay with them, tried to do it, and exactly the same thing happened as you saw there. They came around the first sharp left-hander, he got it all wrong, nearly went into the grit at the edge of it, straightened his bike up, and they were gone. From then on, he was on his own, and by the time they got to the bottom of the descent, he'd lost over 25 seconds, and Rees's lot was some 50 seconds back. He's not a good descender, and we'll have to watch him to see if he can come down and preserve that sort of gap he had at the top. But this man here is certainly flying at the moment.
He is, Dave. He's really giving it everything. But he's using up a lot of energy as well. And the speedometer of the motorbike there, just coming over the race radio, is 85 kilometers an hour.
51 miles an hour, and it's not a terrifically steep descent. It'll go steep in certain parts. It's virtually 20 kilometers all the way down, as Pantani still, the gap isn't coming down as I thought. It was 3/4 the last time check we had, and now Pantani looks like he's going to lose his third place overall after getting the stage victory at the Alpe d'Huez yesterday. He's now 4 minutes down. Lino's doing a good ride there, the big Mats Auville Peugeot ride in the red and yellow, isn't he? Glutenberger's come up to him as well, and Jimenez too.
Well, Pantani was actually, or not Pantani, Lino was actually yellow jersey in the Tour de France for a couple of days in '93, I think it was, and finishing overall in the first 10. So since then he kind of disappeared out of circulation because of sickness or injuries or whatever. But this year now, joining the team of Big Matt Aubervilliers, he's putting in a really, really good ride, and hanging on to Pantani there on the climb. Even though he is some 3 minutes and 40 seconds down, he's still ahead of the likes of here Orlano, who is 4 minutes 40 seconds down.
So Lano with his teammates there, looks like he's got enough help anyway, but they can't really put any more fire back into his legs. They're just getting him down at 4:40. So in reality, the race then is between Virenque, Rees here, and Ulrich and Escartin. Who's going to get the stage victory today in Courchevel? Hang on to Eurosport to find out after this break. Over 8 each minute's back to those two riders coming across the top of the climb, and we've only seen about maybe 30 riders, I suppose, go over the top of the Col de Madeleine. There's a lot more men suffering further on down. There's going to be a lot of people taking an early bath and an early train back after the stage today, because the attack of the Festina team, as we went up the first climb of the day, the Col de Glandon, has had its effect. It's caused a real disaster to the riders further back down, who just haven't got the ability to climb big mountains. At the moment, still this chase group with Reese Ulrich and together with Escartin have now got Duffield for company. He's fought his way back, the Festina rider, who was about 12 or 15 seconds down at the top of that climb. So to recap then, as now the group is 14 seconds between Ulrich and Veronk. They went over the top. Veronk was in first spot, Ulrich second, then Reese and Escartin. About 12 seconds back was Duffield, and then Casagrande. As we see here, Bogart, I think my Madhu was coming over the top, well down on the leaders. Casagrande 1 minute 20 seconds down. When Pantani went over the top, he was at 4 minutes, together with Lino, Luttenberger and Jimenez. Olano came through in 4:40, together with Bolts and Beltran and a couple of other riders, but now they're ready to see the thick end of 10 minutes for these riders here. Only 13 seconds now. It's coming down all the time. Do you think he's easing a bit on the descent?
Well, it didn't seem to be on our monitors, so we wouldn't have thought so. But I think he's looking at him here now, is more or less, he probably has eased off a bit, because you saw him down one or two of the corners there going a little bit wide. You can see he's possibly backing off on concentration as well, so he's taking time to take a drink there, as you see, because he got difficulty in getting his car up to him earlier on to give him a drink. So just for your own information here, like normally his own team car could not get across to him, but it's strictly because of an official you see, we saw the tarmac there, the very soft tarmac there in the corner of the in the very tight part of the corner. Went to go wide around it, but his own team car can come across to him if he wants to come across to him, because the reglement says that once the gap is less than 1.25 minutes, your team car must get out of it, strictly because you don't want your team car advantaging any of the following riders behind. Here's the Festina riders here, Neil Stevens, coming over after doing a great day's work on the Col de Glandon earlier on. But getting back to Bianchi again, if his team car itself decides, well, we don't mind going forward and maybe helping Reese and what have you to get back going again. Our rider needs water, that's our priority at the moment, we can do it. But the reglement does not let any other car go through. It's the director himself who must say, I'm going through, I'm taking responsibility on myself, and I'm going to give him a drink to my rider.
Well, certainly we just saw then, by the way, an example, because both Gareth Davis from the Telegraph and Andrew Longmore from the Sunday Times were asking me yesterday, what exactly do the domestics do? What's their job? And then we saw Pascal Hervé and Stevens come over the top, 10 minutes down on Veronk. And they early on today, they'd been driving, seeing all the Festina riders coming over, they'd been driving on the front, and they just rode themselves almost to a standstill. Certainly Veronk had to ride with them, as Duffield did, but at least they were sheltered all the time. They were in the slipstream, and it gave that launch pad to set off his attack. Those are team tactics go on in bike racing. You've got 9 men start the Tour de France in each of the teams. You've got people whose job to do it to help chase the brakes down, help the climbers, help the sprinters, look after them when they want water, look after them when they want pacing back. So it's a very complex job, cycle racing. It isn't just a matter of 9 blokes getting on the bikes for each team and riding to finish to see who win. It's a very involved sort of operation as far as they're concerned. A great skill and understanding develops over the years as a bike rider. You can only get it riding at this sort of level. You won't learn it back in Great Britain, unfortunately. Watch them come down here now. Talk about Great Britain, I'll give you a quick roll call, by the way, of some of the clubs I've seen out watching the racing over the last couple of weeks. The Plymouth Corinthians, the Wellington Wheelers, team from Basildon, the Vela Club Bristol, GS Europa, somebody from the Ribble area, Willesden, the Pickwick Bicycle Club came out, group of lads from Sigma Sport, somebody riding a Rory O'Brien bike, the Belper, I saw one of those as well, and today I met a lad from the Catford team. He's going in fact now to join the Bar Cycling Club. He's living at Winsley near my old town of Bradford-on-Avon. Of course the Catford, the big team of Mickey Dunn over those years gone by. So thanks to all the Brits for coming out, the Union Jacks we've seen. I even spotted today a Red Dragon of Wales out there. I don't know if you got the Matt Postles coming on as a Welsh cyclist, so perhaps one day we'll have some Welsh cycling. But this is where you do it. You cannot learn it back in Great Great Britain. Just coming and look at it when you ride the coals, some of the people have been doing, and go down them, you can realise what it's like coming down. You don't get a true picture on the telly, do you, Steve, what it's like going down here, taking these bends and really looking down the side there. It's an enormous drop, and they take their lives virtually in their hands when they're going down like this, don't they?
Well, they do, especially today with the weather being so warm. Under the centre, you have the tarmac. You see here on the inside of the corner here, Ulrich, you see Ulrich there now going wide again. He panicked. You saw Rich went right around it, no problem. Ulrich was on his wheel, and he panicked when he saw the melted tarmac. This is a really good thing that Ulrich has Rees with him, because we saw him getting dropped in a big way going down after Call the Glandon. If Rees had not been here on this descent to actually help guide Ulrich down it, he would lose an awful lot more time. You see here now he's lost a couple of meters on Rees, and he's finding difficulty getting back on. See here now he's finding difficult, I think, to anticipate. Normally when a rider's going down the descent, you're looking at the natural barriers. Okay, you have no white lines here, but you're all the time watching it where the ditch is going around the corner. You got to watch these walls going around. You have to try and anticipate. You're always looking out for small clues, looking at electric pylons, telephone cables. You're always looking for these kind of things which can kind of give you an indication as to which way the road is going. And Ulrich, apparently, from what I've been saying so far today, is that he's having difficulty in anticipating whether the road goes right around, whether it goes around a small bit, whether it's a left and then straight into a right, or the actual design of the road.
The other thing too, he seems to go, as I said, like around a 50p piece. He seems to go in straight lines. He goes straight, then turns, then goes straight, then turns, rather than going around that nice smooth line.
That's simply there because he's not anticipating. He's looking into the corner. Normally I would say you tear into a corner and you brake when you cannot see where you're going, and you let the brakes off when you can see where you're going. Where he's kind of going into the corner, turning in too early and finding himself going in too tight, having to let go of the bike again and go around again, taking his corner in 2 or 3 different turns. He's not anticipating whether the corner's going right around or around only a small bit.
22 seconds now the gap. You see he's opening it up on the descent for Onki, slow to get that drink, but he's going around smoothly around these bends. We've just seen those lads go some 15 minutes down on Veronka at the top of that climb, including Zabel.
Oh, sorry.
No, that big group up there. They've just saw Zabel go through in the green jersey, 15 minutes down, and at the top of that climb, they'd actually just covered 86 kilometres, 51 miles. So in 51 miles, this man had knocked 15 minutes out of the people who, but in fact, many of them were still there on the way up the Glandon, which they climbed after about 30 kilometres of the start.
But the way it's going, Dave, the way it's going, it ain't finished yet, because the race is still on the front, and I cannot see them letting up at all, unless Ulrich and Rees catch Fontani. But it's going to be very, very tight today for the time limit, Dave.
Well, one man who's not taking part in the race, if you didn't catch up with the information yesterday, we're sorry to have lost Chris Boardman from the race. He had those two hurt or cracked vertebrae. I don't know exactly what happened to him, but two of the vertebrae in his neck were giving him trouble, and intense pain too. I looked at a picture this morning in one of the Sunday papers. They got a picture of Chris absolutely crying with pain at the end of one of the stage. I saw him in that state too. Chris, we all wish you get well soon. All the British cyclists do, and let's hope you get back in the saddle and that neck doesn't give you too much trouble. By the way, Chris, if you're coming across still to Disneyland, I know your children are looking forward to it, particularly the young Oscar as well, who was born 2 years ago during the Tour de France. If you're coming across, we'd welcome you in Eurosport to come and join us at the commentary box and have a little chat to people back at home. Of course, you can tear yourself away from your kids and Disneyland and your wife, but nevertheless, you may be having treatment for your neck. But if you make it, we look forward to seeing you. But perhaps you've got your feet up now back at home, reading the Sunday papers. I don't know if you take the People, by the way, but Vernon Coleman, one of the writers there, is very much locked into Tour de France as well. And I know that a lot of British press are writing more and more about the Tour de France. And Chris, I know it's because you've done great rides, you've got the yellow jersey, you attracted people in Great Britain to cycling, but nevertheless, once they switched on, we got a lot of them saying, hey, we like this sport, it's great. And today again, on Sunday, on television, on live for you on Eurosport, we're seeing a fantastic race. It has not let up since about the 10 kilometre point after the start at Bourg-Brosson this morning.
No, this is like a stage day which will go down in history, I think, for a long, long time. As we've very rarely seen a full team like Festina has done on a stage. There were 7 of them on the front at the start of the stage. There's 5 of them over the top of the Col de Glandon. Down the far side, it dropped off one at a time to finally leave Roche here out on his own. This is getting a bit risky for him now, being so far from the finish, having Ulrich and Rees riding behind him. But still, you see him calling up his car here at the moment, calling a bottle. Calling his car up again for a bottle.
25 seconds coming out of the headphones again, so he is pulling away again. It's not a lot, 25 seconds. I think he'd like a cushion a bit more than that, but he's gaining time all the way down. There's a 20-kilometre descent. It flattens out a bit to the bottom, at the bottom, and then it starts the final climb. Look at those mountains in the distance. This is where the Tour de France really comes alive. We've had 2 cracking days racing in the Pyrenees. We're now having back-to-back stages in the Alps. We've got another big day tomorrow, and if you're attracted to the Tour de France, I can recommend there's a tape called Pour le Maillot Jaune of the 1965 Tour de France. No commentary, you don't have to put up with me or anybody else. You have just music and horns blowing and something else, and it's a superb look back at the Tour de France from Bromley Video in Barnes in London. Recommend it to you. Just check out in cycling where you get it from. The Tour de France has got so much atmosphere, so much history, and we bring it today live on Eurosport. Casagrande in tow, and they set out superb chase which blew a big gap, and by the bottom of the descent, with some 90 kilometres to go from the finish, Veronk and his cohorts had a 25-second lead on Ulrich, who'd come down the climb in a very, very disorganised way. He was 57 seconds up on Rees' group and 2:57 on a big group of riders further back. So after a while, the Ulrich recognised that he had to go back to Rees, and they got together, and now we've got that chasing group behind of Rees and Ulrich and Jimenez and Escartin and Hervé, and it's 30 seconds back to them now. So that's put you in the picture what's happened today with Veronk on his way. We're off the bottom of the climb now, and we're heading towards the next big climb of the day at Courchevel, where they finish up at the top for the first time of this big ski resort, and that's going to be 2,004 metres above sea level. You join us just as the group here catches Veronk, and look what's happening. Rees suddenly tries to blow him out the back door. Oh, what a tremendous turn of speed from Rees. He must have said to Ulrich, sit on my wheel. We'll give this joker a bit of stick now. Whatever the French or Danish or German equivalent is for that, because Veronk has really made the legs hurt today. He's been the big man who's caused the problem. He and the Festina team have been really putting the pressure on the Telecom team, and only Rees, through courageous riding, managed to collect Jan Ulrich after the descent of the Col de Glandon to get to his man, to cool him down, to use his experience to say, look, stick with me, I'll get you back. And now you can see here that Escartin and Duffield have now got to do what they can, and certainly Duffield, to keep an eye on Veronk, who really has set the race at light today with his teammates in Festina. So the question is now, will they persist with this one, because Pantani were desperately trying to get back to this group. Well, the last time check we had, he was well over 4 minutes down on the yellow jersey. But it looks like they're going a bit quieter now. They're heading towards the long climb up to Courchevel. And this group then are riders, they look like they might be able to get through to the top of the finish of the stage into Courchevel, this 14th stage, 148, as Bjorn Rees starts to go. I thought, looking at the climb, that this final one was a Rees-type climb. If he wants to go for a stage victory, he certainly has got to ride to keep this group away from Pantani so that he can move up into third spot. But what a day to be if Rees went in to get the stage victory, but he's got to be careful, surely, not to blow out the yellow jersey.
Well, what's happening here, I think, Dave, is the fact that you saw Escartin going out the front a little bit. I think what Rees was really actually doing was just kind of showing them, okay, boys, if you want to attack, it's okay, but by me, I'm still very, very strong, because he, by doing that, he actually caused the group to split, and Ulrich and Veronk were caught behind. So I don't think Rees was really, at this top moment of time, is too keen to get away from them. What he wants to kind of show the other guys is, okay, you want to play, we can play too, but look, we're strong. We haven't gone down yet. We may have ridden a lot since the start of the stage this morning, but we still have loads left in reserve, so don't get any ideas.
And Rees is a very, very skilled man at this sport. He's been riding a long time as the sort of helper, the domestique to other such people, and in reality he's just showing his complete confidence to go away, just have a little bit of a burst on the banjo just then. I was telling about the yellow jersey that the Germans have worn over the times. Escartin starting to attack. But the one thing which we haven't had is ever a German winner of the Tour de France. Ulrich was the best last year when he finished second overall. Before that, best German performance in 1960 was Hans Junkermann, who was fourth, and in 61 Hans Junkermann was in fifth spot, and in 1977 Didi Turo was fifth. So the yellow jersey, who really has come through some tremendously hard tests in the last few days, but showed his mettle by Saint-Etienne when he just dominated everybody in that time trial, is still with the race at the moment. We've had a few anxious moments on the drops of the mountains when he was going round like a novice, really. He was all over the place on the descents, but he survived the descents, and now he's learning from the great master too. If he can only learn to descend by going with Bjorn Ries, that man's going to be unstoppable in the years to come, because he's shown for a youngster that he's got enormous strength and he's got enormous capacity to stand the pressure of the Tour de France, because this is just stage 14 of the race. They've covered something just over 1,500 miles in the last 2 weeks.
All these boys now are hurting. They've done a very, very hard stage. Right from the start, the stage was today was 140 kilometres. The first 10 kilometres from Bourdoisan up to the foot of the Col de Glannon was fairly kind of handy, but after that then there was fireworks. So these boys are really, really hurting, and they'll be going in front of a sign here in a minute, Summit 20 kilometres. This part of the climb goes up, it's fairly rolly, but then what about, you can start seeing the signs then, 12, 13 kilometres to go, it gets steep, and the final 10 kilometres is a lot steeper. So I think that Escartin here will be possibly the freshest man in the group, because of the fact that he was being towed along by Ries and Ulrich since they've been, while they were chasing down Vianca. Vianca, I expect, will be very, very tired, although I was listening to his Drive to Sportive a few minutes ago on the race radio, and he was saying that Vianca has said, okay, I feel okay, don't worry, we've lost we felt we were going to break everything wide open today. We didn't do it, but there's still the stage.
And Ries again rolling off the front of this little group. He rode his first Tour de France in 1989 when he finished 95th overall. In 1990 he didn't manage to finish. 1991 he was 107th. In 1993 he moved up to 5th. And in 1994 14th, and of course you know he went on to win it last year. So Ries is just showing that he's got a skill in the Tour de France, going back now over something like about 8 years. He's served his apprenticeship. It paid off when he moved up the overall results till in the end he took over the yellow jersey last year. But his man alongside him, have a quick chat now to Ulrich. That young man Ulrich really has surprised everybody with his superb second performance last year in his first Tour de France, and now Ries is passing on all his skill, all his experience. A man who really in the Tour de l'Avenir in 1989, Bjorn Ries did a wonderful ride to take a stage victory there. He went on and got a stage victory in the Tour of Italy in 1989 now, but they've got to watch this man Escartin if they're interested in getting the stage victory too. And I think the man who's going to hound it down is Bjorn Ries. And I presume he must have gone back to his yellow jersey mate then and just said, look, you know, watch what I'm up to, I suppose.
Well, no, I think they were probably asking each other, how do you feel, and what the situation is. But Ries doesn't seem to be, he's looking very, very strong. He's taking no chances at all. So I'd say they would kind of try and keep it together until they go up under a 10k to go or so, because otherwise it means them taking a tempo. But look at the force of Ries today, Dave. He's gone away.
So probably asked his mate, you know, are you okay to ride the rest on your own? Can I have a little bit of dig off the front? They're obviously working the tactics out, these two, aren't they?
It's actually very dangerous, Dave, because like what can happen here is he lowers the foe going out the back here. What happens if Ulrich punctures Dave? He's no teammates behind him. The neutral service car will maybe be behind him, but he may not. They'll take a while to kind of change the wheel, and you never get a better wheel change than a wheel change with your own team. So here we are going under the banner now of 20 kilometres to go. But Ries is just showing how strong he is today, Dave.
But also, do you think they might have discussed, can we get rid of Duffield, for instance, and make life difficult? If he keeps jumping, he goes fast and he slows down. He did this last year in the Tour de France, didn't he, Ries? Remember, he nonchalantly rode back along the group. See how good they were. He went bam down the road. He's unbelievable.
He did. This playing with fire, I think, on behalf of the telecom team. Because okay, maybe Ries wants to get up into third or up into second place, but Pontani's gone now, so Ries is automatically at this point in the race actually third place in overall. He's
He's
3 minutes behind on GC, but like, okay, he's guaranteeing himself third place on GC, so you know, why kind of jeopardize Ulrich? I think they should be, Telecom should be kind of happy at this stage to be in the situation they are in, and just protect Ulrich, because if Reece goes away and Ulrich punctures, it could mean kind of a lot of problems for them all.
Or do you think Reece is showing something here? Because when you've ridden these races, I haven't ridden this sort of thing, Stephen. What Reece did last year, when he attacked Indurain, he would accelerate and slow. Now, now there we are. He's gone. Now, is he teaching this man how to go fast and slow? Fast, because you see these true climbers like Veronk and Escardi, don't they like to go at the same constant tempo all the way up? And don't they dislike the acceleration and slow,
Well, Reece, when he attacks, normally he uses a bigger gear. But I was saying earlier on, I think the yellow jersey here of Ulrich, he's trying to show the likes of Pierre Hank, okay, listen boys, you played with me all day, you know, but you know, I can do things too, you know. It's kind of putting a dot on the I, really, I think.
But look at the nonchalant way that Reece has just come back up to Veronk, trundled up behind his back wheel. You know, if Veronk looks over his shoulder, he's got the big Great Dane behind him.
Well, Reece normally rides big gears, so he's riding big gear today. That's how he actually can accelerate so fast. He backs off then a little bit, and people can get back on until he decides at some stage, maybe, okay, this is it, boys, I'm going. And he'll go, he'll maintain his effort. It serves two purposes, really. Like, for example, when he goes for his little acceleration and you catch him, then he goes again, you catch him again. But the guy that's behind him, for example, he's saying to himself, okay, he's doing this, he's going to accelerate and relax. And then all of a sudden then he accelerates and doesn't relax. So he seems to be having difficulty now, Dave, in coming back.
So Reece now is just letting that lot go down the road. He looks like he might have blown a gasket. What a wonderful job he's done today there, Bjorn Reece. If you've not been watching our programme right the way through, we came on air, the live programme at 3 o'clock. I've been actually watching the first 2 hours of the show as well before we went on air. Well, we had motorcycling in case we dapped in and dapped out the motorcycling. Well, it did all rain and it came to a halt. And we watched some early racing, and the most significant thing, A, was the strength of the Festina team, who really gave everybody a right old thrashing for the first 80 kilometres, but B was the bad descending of Ulrich. But the other thing, the most significant one, was where that Reece came up to Ulrich and had been looking after him all the way through now, and he's blown because of the work he's put in. So Reece, having done a sterling job today on this stage of the Tour de France, from Le Bourg-Gloisan to Courchevel, 148 kilometres. We're in the final 18 kilometres or so of this long climb up a mountain we've not used before. A sad sight then of Reece coming off the wheels of the yellow jersey, Ulrich down the road, and the polka dot jersey of Veronk. But certainly he's ridden himself into third place today, because Pantani has suffered. Oh, he's...
No, it's changing his gear to put a big ring to the small ring, and seemingly the chain got caught.
Thank you. Can I go back? Right. Good.
Go ahead. Sorry, Dave.
I'm saying what he has done, Reece, a sterling job to defend that yellow jersey. The way he went up to him after descent, towed him back up to Veronk here, and then tried to sort of break the rhythm for Escarta, who's now being blown out too. But certainly Reece, if he keeps this up, should go back up from fourth into third spot, and that'll be some recompense for them. But the question is now, who is going to get this stage?
It's a long way from finish yet, Dave, but we've been witnessing an incredible stage right from the start, and here we are now witnessing an incredible finish, Dave. We've, you know, it's just nail-biting, Dave, despite to actually realise or to imagine what can happen now to the end. You know, Reece is capable of even counter-attacking here again. You know, Escartin coming back on again, but for my money, Ulrich looks the strongest. But so far, Dave.
But this climb we're on, so the first time we've been up it, many riders won't even know it, that the way it sort of changes gradient too. Well, most of the climbs seem to be fairly consistent, but this one goes a bit of a slope, goes steeper, and at one point it goes down, doesn't it? And then it starts twisting and turning through. We even go under sort of bridges where the skiers go up on these cable cars and so on. It's the most unusual run into a finish. There's no consistency to it, isn't it at all? So it could suit anybody. Escardi then trying it out. Remember, we've still got around about 16, 17 kilometres to go. He didn't like the on-off switch that Reece started to throw. Is this just going to be a desperation move, or can he get away? This is the man that won the Tour of Catalonia not long back now, when he demolished Chris Boardman on the penultimate day in the mountains, and now he's trying to do the same thing. Escartin is a naturally gifted climber. He's tremendously good when the roads go up, but he died of 1,000 deaths a bit further down the mountainside. Is this just a sort of final fling before he completely collapses?
The way Ulrich, keep getting mixed up with Reich and Ulrich. Anyway, the way Ulrich now is riding back after Escartin makes me think, you know, oh, the motorbike class very closely there. I'm just asking myself, have the Telecom got in their mind a stage win? Because Escartin is some 14 minutes 36 seconds down on Jan and Ulrich at the moment. So there's no way that Escartin can take back that much time on a rider like Ulrich on today's stage. So they're chasing down all the time, and by chasing down Escartin all the time is hurting Reis, and Reis might find himself getting dropped in later on and putting his third place overall in jeopardy. We see the Devil here. The Devil has gotten, the Tour de France Devil has gotten more than one rider today. He's gotten many riders in the back. We saw going over to Col de Madeleine, so 15 and 20 minutes back.
Well, Escartin looks like he's now opened up quite a useful little gap, but the rest of the riders here don't seem to be too concerned at the moment. He's already died a few deaths further bit down the course, says Escartin. Or maybe do you think when he sort of flagged back he was pretending, Steve? Because sometimes riders do that, don't they?
No, there was no pretending in that day. That was really live. That was as live as you get Tour de France on Eurosport. It was no, that was live, something very, very live. But I see Escartin here now. He's putting in a great ride, but you know, Ulrich is just so strong there behind and going back. But Reis is gone, Dave, again. But that's what I'm saying, Dave. Like every time Ulrich goes after the likes of Escartin, he's putting Reis in difficulty. So I don't know why he wants to do this. Let Escartin go, let him win a stage. At least the Kelmy team will be happy with that. For the moment, Kelmy haven't won a stage, so if they were to win a stage, they will more or less be thankful to Telecom, rather than in this scenario here, if they don't win the stage, but then they'd be angry with the Telecom team.
Well, it's certainly the point that Max Shandy was making to me the other day, that he said that in the days of Benesto, they'd ride just to connect to get the yellow jersey for Indurain. Once he got it, they'd protect it, and if anybody went down to get a stage victory, so what? They got the yellow jersey, they rode to get that. That was what they went in for, and that's what they got. They didn't hound everything down. But I'm going back many days now when Max Shandy said to me, one thing about Telecom, he said they won't let anything move. They're chasing everything down, they're controlling everything they can do. They've got Zabel in the green jersey, they've got the yellow jersey here. They're obviously now trying to get Reis into third spot too, and they're going to get every stage victory they can do. So if you get too greedy though, don't the rest of the teams think, hey, we better gang up on this lot and get our own back?
Well, this is what happens sometimes. There are still two very big mountain stages to come with tomorrow into one big mountain stage to come tomorrow into Morzine, with 5 big hills tomorrow. Then after that, then to Freiburg, it starts getting a little bit less mountainous, but nevertheless there are still mountain stages. Like the tour is not yet over, even though Ulrich is putting more and more time into his into the other riders. The tour is not over yet. Ulrich could find himself behind. Like for example, we saw there earlier on today, we saw Ulrich left behind. We saw 5 of the Festina teams in front. Whereas if they kind of get everybody up on their back, for example, you might find a group going away. Ulrich finding himself behind and having 3 or 4 different teams present in the front, riding their eyeballs out, strictly to kind of say to Telecom, okay, you want to win everything. Now look what you've done. We can lose also.
Escartin on the front there in the green, white and blue colours of the Kelme Costa Blanca Eurosport team. He won the Tour of Catalonia ahead of Casal and Zalabica. Chris Boardman had got the yellow jersey, the leader's jersey. It was a white one actually with bluey bits on it. He got the leader's jersey until stage 7, and then on stage 6 Chris actually defended the jersey remarkably well when Escartin got the stage victory, but he threw down the gauntlet, did Escartin, to show that he was a very strong climber indeed. He went up a very steep climb right at the back end of the race, race. He took the stage, and the next day in the mountains he rode and rode and rode, and finally ended up by being the victor of that one. Escartin then looking at the front of that field. We saw him in the green and white. He wants to get a stage victory in this one. He's had a stage victory in the past in the Tour de France. He finished 8th overall in 1996, so he's a seasoned rider when it comes to riding the Tours. And this man here, Rees, who also has experience dating back to 1989, knows now he's done his work for the day. What he's got to do is just keep ahead of Pantani, just keep that gap there of 1 minute and 18 seconds, and he will move up into 3rd spot. At the moment, unless he dies 1,000 deaths, he's certainly going to take 3rd spot, isn't he, Stephen?
Well, he is, but this goes to show you, like, if behind you,
Brock's gone.
Attacked.
Well, my French commentator Patrick Chassé, who's just gone 4 feet up in the air, or sorry, 1.5 meters up in the air, because he's French, only English go 4 feet up in the air, and suddenly they've woken up. They were having a little quiet snooze, I think, at the moment, and the explosion when they see Baron go like this, and they think, has he got anything left in his legs after a phenomenal day in the mountains?
Ulrich is coming back nice and slowly, but it's difficult to know now, is he actually coming back kind of so slowly in the stance, because he can't go any faster, because we've seen him back in the past when someone attacks, he gets out of the saddle and a little small sprint across onto the wheel. Like, I wonder, is he as strong as he visually looks here on our screen? But Hank cannot be that strong now at the moment either, because he has put in an incredible effort today right since the start of the stage with the breakaway group.
So we're seeing a lot of interesting things today. If you're watching live back at Eurosport and you've left the lawnmower sitting in the middle of the lawn, the grass not cut, or the bucket of water there without the car being washed, or the dog still looking, hopefully be taken out for a walk, whatever you normally do on a Sunday afternoon, and you've knocked it on the head to watch the race. We've seen a very great race again. So often in the past, we've often seen stages where the first 2/3 they've ridden along and paced themselves, it's only exploded the back end. But if you haven't been able to see what we've seen, that's sure, but if you have sat through the race ever since we came on air at 3 o'clock, you know it's never stopped, and I can tell you it never stopped since it started at 1 o'clock. So these riders are absolutely giving us a real classic 1997 Tour de France.
So we have Escartin now has been dropped off, and with Ulrich gone, we really have, here's number 1 and 2 on general classification fighting it out. There's over 10 kilometers to go yet in the climb here. You might see Rees getting back on now with Escartin. It would help their if they don't lose too much time, they can lose. Escartin can jump over Orlano and Casagrande in the general classification, with Orlano in 5th place at 10:38 minutes, and you have Casagrande at 12:56. So if Escartin can put 4 minutes into Orlano and 2 minutes to Casagrande, he can move up into 5th place and overall.
So what you're seeing today on stage 14 in the Tour de France is stage from the Bourg-Boisan to Courchevel over 148 kilometres. Many riders begin to change places. They've also put the yellow jersey under enormous pressure. He responded magnificently, but this man Bjorn Rees, certainly when they get to the finish, I think Ulrich will go and thank him for what he's done today to keep that race together. But so many places are changing below the top position of Ulrich here, and the polka dot jersey, as far as Roche's concerned, he's certainly got that with the points he's getting, but the question still is, who's going to get the stage victory?
Well, it's very difficult to say yet, but a few minutes ago there we just saw some spectator coming out and taking the hat off the rider, so I think it was a very terrible gesture from someone in the public.
And now Escartin clawing his way back up with Rees on his wheel. This is an amazing finish today, because we don't have just the same climb all the way up like the Alpe d'Huez was consistent all the way up for the final 16 kilometres. On this occasion, it goes up steadily, then it gets a bit sharper, then it ducks down again, and so each of these riders will go through his own private hill on different parts. And what on earth was Ulrich doing there? He's reaching out for a bottle.
Yeah, got a bottle from his team car. You see Rees there. Rees actually, it was Rees that got his helmet. I don't know whether people saw it on television. I just saw it on the corner of the screen there. I saw a hand coming out and taking Bjorn Rees's hat off him. I thought it was absolutely incredible. And like you know, you see people out there on the side of the road are there for a long time. They're supposed to be cycling enthusiasts and what have you. But putting a hand out, you can imagine Rees is going up that hill at some 25, 28 kilometers an hour. A hand coming out and taking the hat. It could hit him in the nose. It could hit him in the eye. Whatever. It's an unbelievable sight to see or to have happen to you.
Well, that's a great shame. We had once a spectator punched Eddie Merckx. I remember that in the Tour de France. But right now, let's hope these 4 riders have a good run up to the top. There's a massive crowd up there, the first time for this stage finish at Courchevel. But also, whilst we're watching the top men here on this particular stage, spare a thought. We start this morning with 169 riders. Often on the Eurosport here, we just show you the top men coming in toward the finish. Here, Casagrande, who was away in that group over the top of the Col de Glandon and was part of the 4-man break that really gave Ulrich something to think about. He's still there. We still look at these giants. We still look at Olano. But further down the course, just think we started with 169 riders. Our cameras are going back and forth, only picking up maybe the top 15 or so. And some of those 169 riders will not start tomorrow, because surely today, Stephen, this is a stage when we're going to find some riders outside the time limit.
It has to be, because even the final climb here up to Courchevel, there's no let up at all. There's been no let up apart from before the foot of this climb here. We saw them easing off a small bit, but it was only for the sake of 1 kilometre or so. But then Laurent Defoe counter-attacked straight away. Then he was attacked again by Rees, then another attack by Escartin. So there's been no let up at all on this stage. So I'm sure tonight there will be a certain number of riders going home.
These are the riders who have been doing the damage today. Yes, another attack from Veronk. He keeps sort of waiting, getting his breath back and accelerating yet again. And there in the background you can see one of the Danish supporters running along with the Danish flag to encourage Bjorn Rees to do what he can to hang on to this attack. But he's gone again, and this time Ulrich has managed to mark him yet again. But these 2 riders behind don't seem to be able to vary their pace at all.
Ulrich counter-attack, Dave.
Oh, what a dominant performance. You're watching the first and second overall on general classification of this 1997 Tour de France. Ulrich started the day 6 minutes and 22 seconds up on Veronk. He caught Veronk in the time trial in Saint-Etienne over 55 kilometres. He caught him for 3 minutes, one of the most outstanding performances we've seen. But he's not prepared just to ride this race and control it and just keep an eye on things. You're now seeing Ulrich is quite prepared to go with the moves. Man against man.
Again, Dave.
And you might have heard the roar in the background too. There's a giant screen just down from where we are here at the Altiport to finish, with a bit of a sort of landing ground for aircraft and takeoff point for small aircraft. They've got a big screen there, and every time Veronk attacks, all the friends go, way!
This is an incredible mano-a-mano, Dave. I think there must be some... I don't think we've gone under the board, a 10-kilometre to go board yet, Dave, but it gets a little steeper up further, where this kind of inclination here suits the riders like Ulrich, because it means he can come back fairly easy onto Virenque. But later on, when the hill gets a little steeper, it will suit whoever does attack. Will not be able to come back so easy. So it'll be interesting to see if Pontin, if Virenque or Ulrich will be trying to attack later on when it gets very steeper.
These 2 now about 18 seconds back on the 2 leaders, so it looks like the chance of that stage victory, which Escartin was desperately trying to get, because so many teams have got nothing to show for this race so far. It's been so dominated by the Telecom squad. If we look back to what happened since the race started back in Rouen on Saturday the 5th of July, I'll put you in the picture in case you've been down a pothole or been on holiday or locked in the garden shed and thrown away the key. The result of the prologue time trial was Chris Bourman got that and took the yellow jersey. And as you can see in the background, by the way, that unusual looking shape, in the Olympic Games they used Courchevel for the downhill section of the scheme. But let's then go back to where it's all gone down over some of the riders, because poor Chris Bourman lost his yellow jersey on day 1 in the Tour de France when Cipollini won a sprint finish, gained 20 seconds bonus, and by virtue of a good prologue time trial when he's only 18 seconds behind Chris Bourman, he took the yellow jersey. Cipollini won the second stage into Fayard, and then he kept the yellow jersey again. By the time he got to stage 3 into Plumelec, Zabel won that one. Cipollini kept the jersey. By the time he got to Puy de Fou in stage 4, Minali got that one, and Cipollini kept the yellow jersey. But Cipollini banged his knee and he had to retire out of the race later on. Vasseur, with a sterling performance on a lone break to La Chartres, took over the yellow jersey and kept it for another 4 days. When Blijleveen, Zabel 2 stages, went on to take the stage before we got to Val d'Orme, where Brochard took a stage. We're back then with our leaders up here. Veronk, who is desperately looking for a stage victory in the Tour de France. He's not had one yet. Ulrich did a tremendous ride on the time trial in Saint-Etienne to dominate the race after he took the jersey on stage 11, because Andorra to Perpignan, we were shown a superb piece of riding by Ulrich, and he went into Luchon to Andorra Calais. Ulrich had got that stage 10, and he took over the yellow jersey on stage 10 with that superb ride there. Davion got the stage into Perpignan by default, really, when the judges threw out Uchikov because they reckon he changed his line, but there you are. But Ulrich kept the yellow jersey. So really, since we started, the jerseys, the yellow ones you're looking at now, went to Bourbon on day 1. Cipollini had it for 4 days. Vasso had it for 5 days, and just by 13 seconds he kept it to Val d'Olonne when Brochard won it. But after that, Ulrich has taken it over now, defended it magnificently on this then stage 14 from the Bourg-Roison to Courchevel, and at the moment he looks like he's strong enough to carry it right through to Paris, but it's not all over yet. There's still some big mountains to come, and the question is also who's going to win the stage for the first time finishing in Courchevel.
Personally, Dave, I've often felt that the stage of Tour de France in 1987 up to finishing in Le Plan, going over to Galibier, going over Madeleine, going up to Le Plan, where I fought tooth and nail with Delgado to the finish, I felt it was an incredible stage.
Stephen, can I interrupt here and do a bit of both? Just explain what happened on that stage. Many of us seen the picture of you lying on the ground. I mean, I was covering it on television at the time too, glassy-eyed, absolutely out. Just take us through what happened on Le Plan and where you were, because that was a gutsy vote. I want you to talk about it. Go on. I don't embarrass you, but please.
Going over to Galibier, I felt that Delgado had lost a few teammates. Delgado was leading overall, and I was second, some 25 or some 40 seconds behind him on general classification. So after Galibier, I thought, well, before Delgado's teammates get back on again, I thought, well, I'd attack, try and get away from him while he was being isolated on his own, and of course wasn't expecting an attack from me because there was still 100 kilometers to go. So I rode I got away from him eventually after the Galibier. I rode all the flat on my own. I caught a small group before the col de Madeleine, rode the Madeleine on my own. I got over the top of it then, catching the final of the breakaway group, which was a Fuerte, I think it was, actually went over the col de Madeleine. But on the descent of the Madeleine, I was caught shortly after by a group of Delgado, Gert van Tunis, and some of his teammates. So we only had some 5 kilometers to go then before attacking the col de La Plagne, which was the final climb of the day. Delgado, knowing that if he left me time to recuperate, he wouldn't get rid of me, so he attacked straight away. So I let him go and calculated until finally kept going away, like 30 seconds, 40 seconds, a minute and 10, a minute and 15, a minute and 30 seconds, until I finally thought, well, okay, Stephen, if you want to win this Tour de France, you got to do something now, because otherwise Delgado's going to walk away with it. So I reacted then. I started riding a steady pace, keeping Delgado at about 125, 130, and my plan was, with 4 kilometers to go, I would give it everything. The reason being was because I knew I could give it everything myself at 4 kilometers, and on the other hand, I knew that if I was to increase my pace in the final 4 kilometers, Delgado would not be able to get a final kind of time check in the final 4 kilometers, so wouldn't know where I was. So when I got to the final 4 kilometers to go board, I gave it everything I had, and I mean really everything. I had nothing left at the finish, and closed the gap down to some 4 seconds on Delgado on the finishing line. But I'd given it so much that I just there was no oxygen there. The journalists were all over me because they had written me off. They felt, well, okay, Stephen Roche is 1 minute and 30 seconds down with 4 kilometers to go. The race is over. But when they saw me coming in, they just jumped on me and said, okay, Stephen, where'd you come from? So there was no oxygen there. I kind of keeled over and was in a kind of a semi-coma state. But anyway, that was a fantastic stage for of panache, and it was a fantastic stage for Republic and everything else. But I think I've always been kind of proud to say that in the last 10 years, that stage has been one of the best stages of Tour de France's. But I must say now, I must admit that, and people probably know, I'm not really a Virenque fan, but the show that's been going on here today, live on Eurosport, I must say, this stage is, in my opinion, an epic stage.
Well, that was an epic stage at Le Plagne, but how did you go to take the yellow jersey after that, Stephen? Because you must have been shot after that.
Well, that's what it was, because I was taken away to the hospital and given oxygen and everything else, and I was back to my bed then that night and had a good sleep, and I actually came down for dinner that night, and Delgado was the first person surprised to see me arriving down, and everybody was saying, well, Stephen, you reckon you can start tomorrow, what have you? So I said, yeah, well, I think so, yeah. So anyway, the next day was the stage in Tremorzine. The stage actually we're going over tomorrow, over Juplin, and I attacked Delgado again on Morzine to kind of say, okay, to Pedro, you thought I was gone, but here I am, you know. I'm coming back to haunt you. So I attached him going over the Joux plan and put another 20 seconds into him, which left it a lot easier for me than at the end, because there was a final time trial of some 45 kilometres. So by taking 18 seconds or 20 seconds out Delgado into Morzine meant my gap on the overall was down to some 26 seconds, which meant in a 40-kilometre time trial the Tour de France was still kind of open for grabs for me. But it is an incredible Tour de France, and I must say that this year's Tour de France, I must say, like I love to always think that my tour was one of the best tours of the last decade, but now that this Tour de France right from the start has been a very, very exciting tour. And the ride we see here today, I must say that, I take my hat off to everyone that's ridden today, but especially to Viank, Ulrich, Rees, and the likes of Defoe, Brochard, the boys who have made this stage an epic stage today.
Well, thank you, Stephen Roche, winner of the Tour de France in 1987, after winning the Tour of Italy the same year and going on to the winning of the World Championship. I repeat these things, and some people, cyclists fans, say, "Hey, we know that, David, shut up." But a lot of people are switching on to Eurosport who've never watched it before and are fascinated by what's going on here. And Stephen's got that great in-depth understanding and knowledge, having won this race and fought his way up these mountains, to try and put you in the picture back home what they're going through. You see him riding along here, think, oh, they're just riding along, but they've actually done 114 miles today, and that makes about 1,600 miles since we left Rouen 2 weeks ago. So here they are then, these two riders, all those miles or kilometres under their belt. And again, I said earlier on, we don't see the other riders who make the race earlier on, the domestiques who fetch and carry, and who will be now struggling up this mountain. You see in the background there, the snow is up on the snow-capped peaks, even so just below the cloud line. The helicopter's up there, bringing you the pictures and making sure that you can see it back live at home. It wasn't back to about 1952, I think, we had black and white helicopter and motorcycle pictures out on the television. But right now, the skill they've got, these people, to bring you pictures, and you're right there where the action is. Free, by the way, because once you've got Eurosport, you don't have to pay to transcribe the picture. And if you're on the side of the road again, it's free. You can come and watch the race go through. As well, it must be 250,000 people yesterday watched it go through. Didn't cost them a penny piece. And they're watching men here really giving again a superb day's show of what it's like to be an athlete on a bicycle.
There's only some 30 seconds back now to Rees, between Rees and Ulrich in the front group. The riders here today, we get a nice shot here of the gears. Ulrich here, we see on the screen at a 41 inside chain ring, and behind he has a 11 up to 21. I think I saw him, they seem to be on a second sprocket down, which I mean he's riding at this moment a 41.19 on the back. Richard Viank here seems to be on a bigger gear, but then Richard Viank normally rides kind of a claws his way up a hill. He hasn't got the style or the smooth style that Ulrich has, and we've kind of gotten used to seeing on the screens here over the last 10 days. But nevertheless, that does not mean that Richard Viank is not as strong or not as fresh as Ulrich. I know he's done a very, very long break for the moment, so he's obviously very tired. But he told us at the Sportif there a few minutes ago, and I heard him on I didn't hear Viank, but I heard Bruno Russ have an interview with a French television crew, and he said Richard told me he had look in his eyes and saw the black in his eyes, and when Richard has black in his eyes, that's a day where he's really on form. But he's putting up an incredible effort here today, and I must say, like, a fabulous show.
Well, yeah, 1 minute 30 back to Duffield, just coming off the radio here, so he's sagging back, but he's still hanging on to his 5th place at the moment. Well, as at the 18th of July, the riders in the Tour de France had 2,580 letters sent to them, and there were 120 riders had received letters from various people, and Richard Viank had received 407 of them. That was on the 18th, so we've now got another 3 or 4 days. The nearest to him, Cedric Vasseur, who took the yellow jersey, had 165. Laurent Jalabert. I think by now Richard Viank must be not only king of the mountains, but he must be got more letters than anybody else. I don't think he gets a special prize for that at the end of it. Perhaps he gets an envelope opener.
I wouldn't imagine he has too much time to actually read them all, because when you look at every stage, they must get in their cars and drive off to the finish and get massaged, and there's always some obligations also with journalists and television coverage and everything else. So I wouldn't say he's had much time really to actually read them.
Well, looking at that list too, Luc Leblanc had 59 letters as of today. Well, he'll probably now get 3 more or 4 more commiserations because he retired from the race, didn't start this morning. Jan Ullrich has already had 55 letters. That's quite interesting. And if they send them off to this Dynapost, D-Y-N-A-P-O-S-T, Dynapost Tour de France in France, it usually gets there through to the people. So I think there's still time for somebody to send some letters before we get to the end, which is on Sunday week, when we have that great triumphant race up and down the Champs-Élysées, having come in from the day before at Disneyland. Drunk and Ullrich seem at the moment, Stephen, while we've been chatting about various things, to have gone back into a sort of, I would say shell, but they're just riding with each other at the moment, aren't they?
Well, more or less. You have Johanke riding, doing most of the riding, but I'm just listening into another interview there with Bruno Russell. It's nice having these little channels coming into our headphones here. I have a radio tour, I have France 2 television, and I also have another radio station coming in. I can kind of decode them as they come into my ear. I have a filtering system coming in. It's difficult sometimes, but I heard Bruno Russell just being interviewed there, and they're asking about, well, what about the stage? Has the stage been a success for you, or are you disappointed that the Ullrich was not dropped by Johanke? So 4 minutes 7 seconds now back here now to Pontani's group, so it's very difficult for them now to get back. But Ruxell said that no, we reckon it's been we did our best. We couldn't expect any more under the circumstances. But he said that he spoke to Johanke a few minutes ago, and he said to him, like, what do you reckon for the stage? So he said, I feel capable of winning the stage. So he said he reckons that he's actually riding within himself now at the moment, and keeping it for the sprint, because after all, Ullrich is kind of an unknown quantity in the sprints. He hasn't been in a small sprints before like this, so nobody really knows. We all know that Johanke is a very good sprinter, especially in a small group, so he wants to win the stage, but doesn't know the actual sprinting capacity of Ullrich.
Well, there they are, the two men battling out then to get the stage success at Courchevel. There's still some terrible climbing to be done ahead of them, and at long last Ullrich looks like he's settling down now to a nice constant rhythm after the battles we've had today, which have been in absolute tremendous intensity. And at least we found one little chink in Ullrich's armour, that is that he can't descend. But the trouble is, on the descents they don't lose more than about half a minute, whereas on a climb like this you can lose anything like 4 or 5 minutes if you're not firing on all cylinders. But certainly he's got to do something, Stephen, to improve his descending. I don't know, how do you do that? I mean, you were a natural descender, I was going to say a nutter going down, but you were pretty quick downhill. Is it just something you're gifted with, or can you go and train? And because the difficulty is you can't train down the mountains unless you've got a car in front, because you use all the mountains when you're on the Tour de France because there's no traffic there. But if you go training, how can you do it?
We see Luttenberger here, David, getting a little bit dropped out the back here. He's suffering an awful lot there, Dave. He was in very good condition last year, finishing, I think, fourth in last year's Tour de France with the Carrera team. This year, not capable of following the big riders. But I think that for descending down off hills, I think it's contrary to a lot of other tactics and everything else. You can actually go to the drawing board for this one and explain to the riders actually, like, the mechanics of descending, like how to the best line, where to turn in, where to accelerate, very like in car racing actually, Dave. So I think you can do it okay by doing it on a drawing board, but then you got to put it into action then. But you can really only put it into action when you're actually racing, because otherwise you wouldn't have closed roads, so it's too difficult. But it can come with racing. We saw him earlier on there following Bjorn Ries down the descent, and Ries is a very, very good descender. So by following riders like Ries on descents, you can actually learn a lot. It depends on how kind of quick he is to learn, but he better learn quickly, because tomorrow the final descent down into Morzine, and it's a very, very dangerous bumpy descent. So if Richard Johanke is still with him on the top, I'm sure he'll be letting the brakes go going down.
Well, he started cycling, did Ullrich, at the age of about 12 or 13 in East Germany, when he was spotted by Becker, one of the coaches for the German team, and they spotted this young man at 13, so that was only some 10 years ago, and he made great strides once he started riding on a bicycle, because he went on to become the junior amateur champion, or the amateur champion in 1993, and so he's made tremendous strides, I think, just since 1993 to come here to be wearing the yellow jersey in the Tour de France, and just 23 years of age, be 24 come this December at the most. jersey. Still a lot of learning to do, but he's already showing people he can take the yellow jersey. He finished second last year in the Tour de France, and he's come on in a very short space of time. So that's the man then in the yellow jersey, following the polka dot jersey of Bronk, is still riding to the top of this final climb of the day.
As you see, Ulrich and Vihanki just having a little conversation. Ulrich can probably say to him, sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. But you have Vihanki is calling Ulrich through here. But he's probably saying, why don't you come through, why don't you work? But Ulrich is going to say, well, okay, you want my jersey, you got to take it off me. If you want to ride, you ride. He says, I'm okay in general classification, but also at the same time we have a race behind. So, you know, why should I ride? You're the one who should be attacking. You're the one who should be riding. So, admittedly, it's not a very aggressive way of riding, but riding on somebody else's wheel. But at the same time, like if Ulrich rides, for example, and then punctures something, Vihank is not going to wait for him. So at least by having Rees not too far behind him, we see him here coming up. But he seems to be getting dropped there by Escartine. But by having Rees not far behind him, if something does happen, he will have a change of bike straight away, or he'll have a change of a wheel straight away. So it's not in Ulrich's interest to ride.
Well, they are, Richard Bronk on the front at the moment. He's taken the polka dot jersey in 1992, 94, 95, the polka dot jersey, and also he's been here in that leading group all day long, either racing hard to try and win the stage, going around a lone break, and now trying to recoup and try and win this stage up here towards the finish at Courchevel. To get his name on the list for the first time. We've not had a stage finish up here before. Already in this Tour de France, Ulrich has had 2 stage victories. He won the one into Andorra Arcalis. He won the time trial stage at Saint-Etienne as well. So he's got 2 stage victories under his belt. So far, the Festina team have got the one from Brochard at Vallée de l'Oron on stage 9. And now can Festina get another one? They're having live in this race. There's no doubt about it that the Festina team today, they enlivened it day after day after day by attacking the Telecom team. The 2 teams have been the most dominant ones in the Tour de France this year. They come past that very interesting man-made lake. I remember looking down into it. It's a murky looking colour. If it looks, don't adjust your television set and say, why isn't that water blue? I don't quite know, but it looked a very murky colour when I came around the climb earlier on today. But we're getting towards the part where it gets quite interesting, because it ducks and dives from now on in, and there'll be masses of people coming up here right since the early hours this morning to get a view of the giants of the road. They're also going to cheer on the people who are further back down the road, because what will happen now, there'll be a group of riders who have lost contact with the front of the race, and they'll be working out that having left this morning at 1 o'clock from the start, they're going to be finishing here at round about 5:30, 5:45. They're saying, right, 5.5 hours of racing, they get the average speed, they know what the percentage is for this particular stage here, and someone like Eros Polly, who I understand is the bus driver, because I asked him the other day in Andorra, we saw the group come in at the back, where one man checks the watches to make sure they stop inside the time limit. It's usually one big bloke like Eros Polly who can't climb the mountains, and their job is to keep it together. Well, I think today, Stephen, that the bus at the back, there's going to be panic stations, because they won't all be able to ride in at the same speed. They'll have to get something going, and we might see some of them, they're having a little race at the back just to get inside the time limit. It's got that look about it today, hasn't it?
Well, definitely. When you look at the times, that was the bus, as they call it, the Gruppetto, was behind on top of the Col de Madeleine. Like we didn't even see the Gruppetto. We saw groups coming over some 15 minutes down, where the Gruppetto was probably even further behind it again, and the Col de Madeleine was some 65 kilometers from the finish. So and of course the final 20 kilometers is all uphill again. As far as I know, the actual the cut-off time today would be in around 28-30 minutes, but they're going very, very fast on the stage today.
Nice little look there at Ronk on the front, and he's got a little swirl on the shoulder. He's got the Nike tick on his shoulders now. They're supplying the jerseys to the Tour de France. It used to be, many years gone by, people like the Coq Sportif, and then big people from Castelli, from Italy. Now Nike's come in here, the big American company. Oh, yeah, photographer, get out of the way, man. And I'd like also to see, we talked about Cipollini having yellow shorts and a yellow bike when he got the yellow. I see that, in fact, that Ulrich's riding with some yellow Rudy Project glasses on. Now, I don't know whether they're actually going to paint his on specially for him, whether you can buy him like that, but they're about matching glasses. At least these lads are getting some style now, aren't they? He with the little earring and the yellow glasses.
Well, it's much more colour now coming into cycling, making it a lot more glamorous than it would have been a few years ago. And I must say that I'm happy to see that the bikes now coming, the colour of the bikes are coming a little bit more classic than all these multicoloured kind of fluo colours. I think that I like this kind of classic kind of bike. Look at Hank's bike, it's 2 colours, and look at Ulrich's bike, it's the very same. But not these fluo colours. As they go under the banderole, I was going to say, David, as they go under the flag here for 5 kilometres to go.
And these 5 kilometres to go are quite tricky. In fact, they go through the little village, I suppose, of Courchevel, and then duck up and turn and twist and drop down underneath these little bridges too. It's quite a fascinating run-in before they start the final zigzag up towards the climb, where a big crowd is sunning itself up on the grandstand. They've been entertained by a jazz band there, with the Olympia has been going. The jazz band's packed up now. They want to see the end of the stage as well. They've been riding now for 4 hours and 22 minutes. I said it was 5.5 hours. I think it's 4:22, my mistake, because in fact they started at 1 o'clock, not 11, didn't they? So it's 4 hours and 22 minutes, and the percent of that time will be calculated for the stragglers coming in. 5 kilometres to go too for Escartin and Rees. Well, Rees certainly is riding himself back into the third spot at the moment, because my guide radar seems to go on the blink, actually, Stephen. I haven't heard a thing about how far back.
48 seconds, Dave.
No, Pantani, because
46 to his and 4.5 minutes back to Pantani.
Well, I always happened to my radio tour, because normally you can hear it and it's just gone very quiet. I don't know cracking and banging early on, so perhaps it's the sound's gone off this headphone of mine. But radio tour has been completely absent for the last I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes, so we just have to rely on the fact that Pantani was 4 minutes and he didn't look like he's going to pull it back.
No, I wonder, Dave, like you have Ulrich here, he's not riding at all, not cooperating at all with Hank here in the final 10k up to the finish. I wonder, will he contest the sprint like to win it, or will he kind of give a little bit of a kind of an edge to Vihank, because Vihank has ridden all day, he's been away all day, he's ridden all the way up the climb. I wonder will Ulrich kind of say, I'm going to be a senior, as we call them, and say, okay, well, you've done all the work, like I have the yellow jersey, okay, give you the stage, you know. I'm sure Vihank would love him to do it, but I'm sure he's not too sure. When you're with someone like Miguel in your hand, you might be able to kind of think about it, but this guy Ulrich, nobody knows what he can do.
Inside the final 4 kilometres, this tricky part of the course, and still Veronk on the front with Ulrich trailing in his wake. Good gap back to Bjorn Rees and Escart. They haven't got a chance to catch up with these two. So the question is, who's going to add their name to roll call of stage winners so far? After Boardman got the prologue time trial, Cipollini took 2 sprints finishes in succession. Then Zabel got a sprint finish. Minali took another sprint finish. Vasseur went on a lone break into the Chartres, took over the yellow jersey and held it for 4 or 5 days. Vladimir took the sprint finish the next day. Then Zabel took 2 more on the trot. So the German Telecom team, by the time we got up towards the mountain, had scored 3 sprint successes. We then went into the first day in the mountain, the Vol Laurent. Brachard took that one for the Festina team. But Ulrich stamped his authority on the race on the run-up into Andorra when he romped away, got the stage victory and took the yellow jersey. In the sprint at Perpignan, Davion was given the victory ahead of Uchikov. And then by the time we got to Saint-Etienne, Ulrich again got the time trial. And yesterday we saw the mountain climber speciality, Pantani, get the victory. But for my money, Stephen, the Festina team have ridden so hard in this race. They've only got 1 stage victory to show for it. They've got the polka dot jersey of Richard Veronk here. But if anybody deserves to win today, if only Veronk can do it, I'll be there cheering, because I think certainly he's shown us today great courage. They call him the Coeur de Lion. I know you work for Coeur de Lion cheese peel, but I think they nothing to do with you lot, but they call him the Coeur de Lion because Richard is the Lionheart, isn't he? Today's shown it.
He is, yeah. And I think tomorrow, after his efforts there today, he will be, I think no doubt in my mind that he will also get the Coeur de Lion Combativity Award, which is an award given to to an individual rider on each day for his outstanding performances, or for his sign of courage and panache and character in the race. I think Richard Vihank today has no doubt shown he has character and he has courage, and he's given a great show of panache here today on the stage. But looking back to a few minutes ago, we saw from our helicopters, and we see it here again, you see Ulrich is not really on Vihank's wheel, so he's not really getting a lot of shelter from him. He's actually riding shotgun, he's riding on the side, he's content to ride there. Okay, he's not actually riding with him, but he's not actually sucking his wheel either, you know. So I think it's probably because because Reese is behind and doesn't want to take too much time out of him in case something happens mechanically, or even on GC. Reese this morning was only a fourth on GC, some 9 minutes down on Ulrich, but only some 3 minutes down on Vihank. So if they put too much time into Reese at the moment, it means Reese is falling further back on Vihank on GC. So Reese today, if he keeps going the way he's going, if he doesn't lose too much more time, he would ride himself into third place overall on GC.
Well, there we are, 3 kilometres to go. We saw a spectator starting to run alongside the riders here. The other day we had a spectator drop down with a heart attack, and the rescue services couldn't recover the poor chap. He was gone, and that was it. Well, 3 kilometres to go, and almost it is heart attack territory, because I parked my car just below the commentary point here, and then started to walk up the grass slope to get to the commentary point, and it was very steep indeed. And up here, of course, 2,000 metres above sea level. The air is very rarefied indeed. Interesting you said about Baron might get the Coeur de Lion Cheese special award for the most combative ride of the day, because Paul Dore phoned me from Paris, one of my co-commentators, said, look, stick it in the box then, because Paul Dore's decided that he's going to be the man who gets the award, and that was way back about 3 o'clock today, so he must have decided that Baronk was on for a ride right from day one. So here we are, we now see Baronk on the front then, and 45 seconds back to Reese and to Escardin. So the race is between these two to see who'll get the victory today at Reitzer up on the mountainside at Courchevel.
The road now starts, you could say, Dave, starts going up around and starts ducking and diving and everything else from this point on now. There's some nice steep little parts here, but I find it hard to see Vihank kind of attacking at this stage now, because he hasn't got we are ducking down now, Dave. But it's difficult for Vihank to attack from the front and get away, because he has Ulrich in a slipstream all the time, and there's no surprise. The only way of getting away here is the likes of Ulrich behind here, if he wants to have a go and catch Vihank by surprise. Here we have Reese now is finally blowing up altogether. He's been hanging on to Escardin right up the climb, Dave, after being dropped by Ulrich and Vihank, and now Escardin is going away.
2 kilometres to go for these two. Can Escardin suddenly launch himself into space and catch these two? We understand that Duffield is still back in 5th spot behind Reese. He has not been caught by the chasing group that includes people like Alano and also includes Pantani. But now he's launched himself after these two, and they've got to watch it, because he might come up quick and catch them napping. They'll be able to look back down there, because the road, as it goes around these bends, you can just see over the top and looking at that is the side. And there is the airstrip in the background. Right at the top is the finish, but who's going to get the stage victory today? Nasty, sharp little bends, Stephen, aren't they?
Yeah, the road surface there has all been totally resurfaced for the final. Escardin now is some 45 seconds behind. He's a climber, a pure climber. He may have been under pressure later on, but he's coming back very, very fast, Dave. There's 3 kilometres to go, but I don't think it's enough.
He's 30 seconds with 2 kilometres to go. He's 30 seconds back now, Escardin, and these two cannot hang about. Now that's the stupid thing we see on the Tour de France from time to time. Why they run up, I just do not know. Just to get a few seconds on telly, I suppose. And somebody can fall like that. They can fall on a bike wheel, they can fall on a motorcycle. Just stand glued to your position, and perhaps the best place to watch it is on your television set at home. But no, it isn't really, because the atmosphere up here is absolutely electric again, as the lads with the German flag urge on the great German rider here, the World Amateur Champion in 1993 at the tender age of 19. We've been checking the record books to find out the youngest people to get the yellow jersey, checking the record books to see how many people who became World Champions at 19. And this man is undoubtedly a superb rider. The question is, can he get yet another stage, or will Veronk show his skill and experience to get the victory at Courchevel?
Look at the public here again today. It's unfortunately you cannot do anything about this kind of thing here. You cannot put barriers all the way down the climb. It would be just incredible. But at the same time, you would imagine that people would have a certain amount of respect. They all have respect, of course, but we would say a certain amount of intelligence to know that if I fall on one of these riders, which can happen, I can trip up over somebody, even if it doesn't happen purposely, it can happen. I can fall under these riders, and then they might get the photograph on the front page. But I don't know why they actually do it.
Like two-wheel ants then swarming all over the place. The spectators are encouraging on these two riders. They're going to pop out of that tunnel in just a moment and head in towards the finish. That's the airstrip above them, a most amazing piece of engineering up here at Courchevel. They come out of that dark tunnel. It's very cold inside there. Their eyes will blink in the bright light, and the crowd will now know that only about some 700 metres from the finish, these two riders are battling out to see who gets the stage victory for the first time at Courchevel. Veronk on the left-hand side, Ulrich on the right. Polka Dot King of the Mountains against the yellow jersey of Ulrich.
So the climb continues to go up here, up to about 200 metres to go, David. You've seen it as you've been over the stage here. It goes up, straight up to about 200 metres. Then it goes over the top of a bump and down to the finish. But it's not actually a flat finish, it actually goes downhill a little bit. So it's going to be very difficult to judge, because you cannot see it with 500 metres to go. You cannot see the actual finish line.
Well, Veronk's been used to looking up then at the King of the Mountains sign. It shows that 800 metres to go to the top of, sorry me burping, I've done the Coca-Cola too quickly. Marco Pantani fan club sign just over the side there. They're going to have some time to wait. Thick end of 4 minutes, the man who won yesterday's stage into Alpe d'Huez. I thought he might do well today, but unfortunately he hasn't stood the pace after his tremendous ride yesterday. Obviously didn't recover because he's still finding his way back after that broken leg, and still finding his way back after the crash in the Tour of Italy. But these two then superb physical specimens that have raced that 148 kilometres today at a very, very fast pace indeed. 4 hours and 32 minutes of either going up or going down. And now the question is, who's going to get the sprint?
I don't want to talk too soon, Dave, but looking at the way Ulrich is sitting on his bike here, I think he might let behind win. He might respect the fact that he's done all the riding for the last 10-15 kilometres. He did all the breakaway today, during all the riding in the breakaway with his team. He's done a fabulous stage today. He deserves the win. Ulrich might say, well, okay, this guy deserves the win. After all, I have the yellow jersey. I put more time into the next rivals. So at 400 metres to go now,
and still Veronk is leading. He's been towing his man all the way up these last 2 kilometres or so. Veronk looks back down to see Ulrich looking so calm and confident on his wheel. And now there you are, that's the finish right down there, or right up there to be more precise, as Veronk rolls in here and Ulrich behind. Two of the giants of the Tour de France of 1997. Really, Veronk has always done well in the mountains, but I've never seen him ride so consistently as he has done today.
Ulrich hasn't changed the gears. 200 metres to go. He's put his hands down at the bottom of the bars. He's in the right place now to attack. I just don't know now. It's difficult to know. Nobody knows what Ulrich is like really in this situation, humanly and physically.
And look at the mask on Veronk's face. He's concentrating, wondering if he's coming off his wheel. And Veronk starts to accelerate, and Ulrich then gets down the bars and tries to come up to him, but no, Veronk goes past and he gets that one. So Veronk has made the day for Festina. He's won the stage, and my goodness, I think he deserved it for the way he grabbed the race by the scruff of the neck earlier on with his team, and really gave the Telecom boys a bit of a fright. But as Escardin comes into third place today, I'm sure that when Rees comes in here, the first thing that Ulrich will do will go and say thank you to Rees, because Rees today sacrificed himself. As Escardin comes into third, Escardin hoped to win the stage. He kept his powder dry, following the wheels all the way through. But this great man who won the Tour of Catalonia about 10-14 days before the start of the Tour de France. Met his match today, met another great climber, but let's wait for Roche to come in, because also whilst you may give the prize to Baroque for his combativity, for me the man of the match today is this man here. He's been caught by Duffield, but Bjorn Roche goes down in my book as one of his greatest days of riding a bike, except when he took the yellow jersey and won the Tour de France. Great
Definitely.
day.
It's got a fabulous day and a great kind of sign of fair play and sportsman and comradeship also. But I think today, when Ulrich letting Bjorn win the stage today, he's made himself an awful lot of friends in France. All the grandmothers, all the young women, everybody that all love Bjorn will be so happy that Bjorn won the stage today, and so happy that Ulrich saw fit to let him win the stage after all the effort he did. I think he can go anywhere in France now and be a household name.
And what a gap has been cut back by Pantani. He's trying to hang on to that third space, because this morning it was 1 minute and 20 odd seconds between himself and Rees. Hang on, is this Iscan or Conte? Is this?
That's Pantani.
Pantani, yeah. I was just looking to see whether it was his teammate coming. 1:47, 1:48 on our clock here. No, he's probably a bit too far down. If we look back then at Baroque taking this stage, Vic, it's coming very close, by the way, between Pantani and Rees, because at one time he was 4 minutes down, but right now, as we watch the slow motion as Baroque takes the victory, the battle is on for third spot between Pantani and Rees, and I think he's probably likely to lose it. And this man, though, today is undoubtedly, as far as France is concerned, the hero.
I think, Dave, you know, this picture here, I think, deserves a couple of seconds of silence, Dave, because we've lived here in Eurosport today an epic stage of the Tour.
Triumph all over his face, but will it be a disappointing day for Pantani, the other skilled mountain climber? Will he lose his third spot to Bjorn Rees?
I'm just listening to the race radio, Dave, at the moment. Richard Bjorn this morning at the start of the stage, a fan gave him a shamrock of four leaves. And in France, a shamrock of 4 leaves is for luck. So he reckons, well, the journalist said to him, well, what happened to you today? What happened to you, know? So he said, oh, well, he said, maybe this was something to explain it. And he pulled it out of his pocket and showed it to the journalist. It was a leaf of like a shamrock with four leaves on it. And that in French means it's for luck. Maybe as Daddy says, but thank you very much to the fan, he said.
Well, as the press will be inquiring and talking about what went on today and writing and filling the papers tomorrow with all the stories, the riders still coming in here. Spare thought this man Casagrande, who tried to go away earlier on with the break which Festina set up. He survived for a bit. He soon got caught though by Ulrich and Rees. And now the rest of the stragglers are coming in here, but a lot of riders are still far down the mountainside, trying manfully to stay inside the time limit. Look at those gaps that opened up following that tremendous onslaught of Baroque and the Festina team. Well, looking back between Rees and Pantani, a quick bit of mental arithmetic, it shows me there's got about 1 minute and 40 seconds there, so he has lost that third place, and I think, Stephen, it's goodbye to him. Even he gets it back tomorrow, because the time trial might make the difference too.
Yeah, but Tani's going to find it very difficult now to go up on the podium, as you have Pascal Lino coming in here. Pascal Lino has done a great stage today. He couldn't climb at the Belsenham when it got very difficult there on the Col de Madeleine. Finish up somewhere in the first 10 overall when we get to Paris in 1 week's time.
Well, if you missed some of our program earlier on, you want to watch it, you see it's going to be on air tonight at 2200 hours Central European time. Tomorrow we're going to be on air at 11 o'clock live, right the way through to about 5:30, so it's a long old day in the plastic bucket again as far as I'm concerned. Stephen will join me during the program as well once he's been out there to give away the special award for the most combative rider. Must go to Baroque, I would think, who's still second overall in general classification, but Rees has moved up into third, just ahead of Pantani by some 24 seconds. That was close at the end of it all. Pantani gave it all, but just couldn't quite make it. Elano, Escartin and Casagrande, all good climbers, but today, the day belonged to Veronk and to Ulrich, who defended his yellow jersey by counter-attacking coming up. But he must say thank you, I'm sure, Ulrich, to Rees for his efforts in preserving that yellow jersey today, and what's again been a very, very superb day cycling on the Tour de France. Well, certainly, Stephen, you've enjoyed it, haven't you?
I have.
Graphics, many new ideas in this year, but certainly there's no doubt about it that the man, whatever you might say about his unusual way of doing things, you said he committed suicide earlier on, Steve, but he won today, didn't he?
No, he did. Definitely today. He caught us all a little bit on the hop. I misjudged them. I misjudged the condition he has at the moment. We all felt that after the time trial the other day where he held on to Ulrich for the last 12 kilometres, going into the red, we all thought he would pay for it in the Alps. He showed today he's got an incredible recovery rate, and today's stage of 140 kilometres was, I think, the stage of his life, and my best stage I've ever seen in a long, long time.